Just want to say before the show starts, The Troy Show is a listener discretion advised show. We're fair, we're balanced here, everyone gets a voice. We can't quite control exactly what that voice is going to be, so please keep that in mind as you listen to the show. Any business or organization mentioned on the show is not a sponsor of The Troy Show, nor is it affiliated unless otherwise stated. The Troy Show is not an official representation of the city of Troy, Ohio, USA, or the government thereof. This is Troy on Air. Well, maybe one of these days I'll start on time. Today is not that day. Welcome to The Troy Show, April 27th, 2020. Covering all the local news that you missed, your weekly recap of Troy, Ohio, and the surrounding area. Day 7 now, since Mike DeWine has shut something down. We're onwards to May 12th with a few stipulations thrown in there. 41 days of Troy's state of emergency and 107 days now since the tornado that has kept this sidewalk closed out front for 107 days now, with no sign of it ending anytime soon. We do have, over in the other quadrants of the circle here in the downtown, a beautiful historic district, a lot of construction, a lot of progress there, but no word yet. I would just like a word. Maybe I missed it. If I did, please someone let me know why we have not done anything about the sidewalk out front, other than just put more barricades in the way. Well, we welcome you to the show tonight. We've got a lot to get into. Of course, you are always welcome to call in 937-696-7572. Nice and slow for those of you in the back. 937-696-7572. And we offer you a 1-minute guarantee on that. You are able to call in for 1 minute. We're not going to hit you with a kill switch or the $50 button right here. That stuff when I talk. We won't hit you with that. Everyone's opinion here is welcome on the show. I would like to mention, before we get into it tonight too much, that you might hear me talking a little bit of shop tonight with some people here in the studio. We've got some stuff that we're bringing in. I don't want to unveil it. I'll lift the mic on the OC boom. But we do have a pile of stuff. You can't see it too well back there on the desk. A pile of stuff, improvements. The shipments are coming in very slowly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I didn't get to read the governor's statements this morning. I surely did not watch them, but I didn't get to read it. I've gotten synopsis, a couple things from friends here and there. I don't have exact information on it. So I'm not going to talk about it too much tonight. Besides, this is a local show. We do this for Miami County. We'll go a little bit further if we have to across the state or nation, if we can somehow tie it back into local news. But that is what we do here. BeautifulTroyShow@gmail.com. I want to take a moment to kind of talk a little bit real quick before we get into it tonight of why the show was founded, what the purpose was. This is not something I've planned for a while. I've always tried to find a place to put my, I wouldn't say radio talent. I don't want to go out that far. Always try to find a place to put my ego, to put my skills, to put my interest at. And it's landed here. This is where we're at. And for good reason, because I did a trip down to D.C. a couple weeks ago. I believe it was February 26th, 27th. But I was down in D.C. I got, it's kind of a half invite, a little private, smaller events with some journalists that I know down there and people that I've been acquainted with for a couple years now. And I went down to D.C. and there was this lady campaigning for San Francisco office to upseat Nancy Pelosi out there on the West Coast. Now, here I am coming from Troy, Ohio, Miami County, and I'm down here in D.C., and we would run into these people every once in a while. They were at the events she was campaigning, and she'd swing by the table and drop off a flyer. There were multiple other candidates there. How many flyers, Nathan, do you think we got?
At least 10, 15 maybe.
Something like that. We got a ton down there of candidates that we had nothing to do with, that had related nothing. I could not vote for them. And here I am getting handed all these pamphlets on these tables for people wanting, they're in D.C. running for office on the West Coast. And I thought to myself, no one really does professional talk radio at a local level anymore. Well, yeah, there's no money in it. But it's not about the money here. It's just about providing a platform. These are things I've acquired over my 10 years of being in this. I run a business, a trucking company on the side, and drive truck. It's just something I wanted to do. I genuinely enjoy this, and that's why we have started this show, to talk about the people at a local level. Because I realized how easy it is for us to talk about people on the West Coast that we never interact with, that barely have an effect on our life. Now, I do love to talk shop like that. No matter what political aisle, I'm sure everyone loves to do that. Get up and talk about whatever celebrity figure it is. It's easy to, because you'll never run into them at the grocery store. You'll never run into them in person. But at a local level, it's far more intricate. And you have to keep a balance there. But I'm all about it being open. I'm not a very connected person when it comes to these things. And I don't want to be, because that would compromise the sole integrity of this show. If I were to be any more connected, it would compromise what this show is about. It's about everyone having a voice, from the bureaucratic level to the citizen level to the downtown level, the historic district, Hollywood, across the river, local cities, and maybe the surrounding connecting counties like Shelby County. That's the point. It's the point for us to get our discussion out there, an open dialogue, no censorship. That's why we started Troy, Ohio Citizens 2.0. If anyone was in the original Troy, Ohio Citizens, you would know that during that, everyone was called a social media experiment. Group was up for like a year to mass thousands of citizens, but the moment you lashed out with any type of sarcasm, with any variant opinion that did not fit the city's PR imaging at the moment, and I'm not going to get into names here, this is not the time to start with that, you couldn't speak. I was banned long before that whole debacle went down. And I posted something, it was relatively funny. It was poking fun at some of the stuff we take a little too serious here. It was during the whole signs were popping up for, what was his name? Bloomberg? Yeah, Mayor Bloomberg. And they were popping up and they were taking him down. Anyway, I was not on the mainstream side of opinions there, but the post got almost 50 likes and laugh reacts. Apparently that's value. That means you've said something worthwhile. Did very well. People had fun with it. Yeah, it was a little bit trolly. But if you had any varying opinion there, you got shut out. And I was called a troll, and I live in the downtown. They're calling people trolls that live down here, that live in Troy and have an opinion. It affects their life. No one is a troll to me. I'm talking in opinion senses. Obviously, there's going to be people that just do things to get under your skins. Or they might try and call in here and use one choice word for a minute straight. We're not going to let that happen. I can't do that for the format of the show. That's why Ohio Citizens 2.0 exists. If you want to go straight to the citizens, if you want to go over there and interact and talk about your thoughts and get it out in a public venue that way, you can do so. Facebook.com/groups/Troy Ohio Citizens. But I took great offense to that. And I thought, you know what? I have a voice, and so does the other nearly 26,000 people in the city of Troy, Ohio, not to mention the over 100,000 in Miami County. I'm not correct. I am not the voice, contrary to that article that I usually have sitting here on the desk. I'm not the voice of Troy. I'm not the voice of Miami County. I am but a vessel that opinions get passed through. Anyone's welcome to come up here. Any side is welcome to come up here. Any side during the political season is welcome to put a sign back here. I don't know if I'll leave them in the windows or not. There's not really anything against it, but we'll at least get it in the studio with in-camera view, of which we have a very nice setup coming for that. Stay tuned in the coming weeks, about mid-May. We're hoping to have that set up and ready to go. Anyone's welcome. I do things to pick people's brains, to figure out what it is that they're saying. And I trust the listeners of the show to be able to decipher what they're saying. I just like to have a long-form interview with people or I like to discuss issues, or I like to be on another side to get the discussion moving. Everyone's welcome. 937-696-7572. If you want to be a part of the conversation tonight, and those of you chatting along in the Facebook feed, I want to talk about that too. I do not monitor the Facebook chat on the show. I've never claimed to. I don't monitor it. The problem is I'm doing a show and I'm trying to keep a format so that it's concise and able to be listened to. Troy, Ohio Citizens 2.0. That's why we have that Facebook group, is to do more long form, elongated discussions over there. But I wish I could monitor the Facebook feed. We've thought about it. We might still do it. I might have a separate person pulling certain questions, because if I were to look at it, I couldn't keep up, and half my time would be spent staring at the screen. And I could not move along with my notes. And especially when I have a guest, it's very hard to monitor that. Sometimes we open the phone lines up for guests. Sometimes we don't. That's an option that I've offered them. I'm not sure exactly where we stand on that as far as the show goes. I'm not sure if we are going to continue to offer them that option or not. We might just have to make it part of the format that the phone lines are open when guests are on here. We do have a call screener here, and she does a very good job at it, to try and quell as best we can, but any obvious trolls, not people with opposing opinions to mine. Those people get through just the same as people who have opinions that line up with mine. Everyone's welcome here, and we try and have a civil and open dialogue. So we have a call screener back there for that. I just wanted to clear that up because I wasn't able to monitor it as best as I wanted to during our last interview that we had up here, and that was with candidate Paul Reese. And I do want to make it known on this show, I don't endorse people on this show, and I do not, obviously I have my own personal political leanings and voting, but I don't endorse people on this show. I try to offer everyone best I can, humanly possible, a fair shot, and the same amount of airtime. And I don't have a guest up here because I agree with them. I don't have a guest up here because I disagree with them. I have a guest up here because that they have found themselves in the middle of a topic in the community, and I won't allow it to be swept under the rug, and I won't allow it to be put away because maybe your opinion on the matter is a little bit different than what the main people would like you to think. This is just about allowing everyone to talk here and have a little bit of fun along the way. I like to laugh at stuff we take a little too seriously. I like to have a little bit of fun with it. So let's get into it tonight. I got this in the mail just before I started. It's the 2020 census. The mayor has been adamant, the Troy, Ohio Citizen government has been adamant that we get this thing filled out. I think we're at 60% last I checked the numbers. I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to fill it out. We might fill this out later on the show. We might open it up and take a look at it later. I've been seeing a lot of buzz about the census, and I've never filled one out to my knowledge. It's 10 years ago. I don't think I could fill one out. No, I would have been 13 at the time. So 10 years ago, I couldn't have filled one out. So I've never filled a census out. At first, I was like, well, I don't know. I need to look further more into it. I don't like to give information, but there you have it. That's why we started the show. We'll talk about it a little bit more. It'll get brought back up again at some point, but I just wanted to clarify, coming fresh out of the gate like that, as to what's going on, and maybe hopefully clear questions up. You can never clear enough questions up for people. You'll never be able to do it. That's why I talk all my opinions. I put them here. I try to. Every once in a while, I'll like something on Facebook, or I'll slip a comment out there. I don't like using social media for that reason, for that specific reason. I don't try to use it that way. I've learned my lessons on that. I'm nowhere near perfect. I don't know what was going on in front of Kay's Hamburger Shop earlier today. It's the first time I've witnessed that many people over there outside the place. Not inside, I'm talking outside. It's the first time I've witnessed them do their, I guess, carry-out service is what I was looking at. I was driving by. I planned on stopping, but I didn't have a microphone on me. Very poor habit when you do what I do. But I didn't have a microphone on me at the time. Otherwise, I probably would have stopped and just tried to inquire, maybe grab some sound for the show. But I was driving by Kay's Hamburger Shop. Wonderful day outside, by the way. Couldn't ask for a better day to lift the spirits as we're all still stuck in our homes somewhat. Just nowhere to go, honestly, other than out. So I was out driving around, and I was going west before you hit the police department there by the railroad tracks. And there's a lady out front, assuming works there at Kay's. She had a mask on, and she had it looked like, I just caught a glimpse of it driving by. It looked like she had a Lysol and the order in one hand, just handing it out to. There was a good crowd. I was glad to see that. Everyone was socially distanced and spacing themselves. I was glad to see that. But it's the first time I've seen that. I mean, that's what we're doing for these carryout orders. They've got this lady standing out front at Kay's Diner, which they had just reopened. They weren't open for some of this shutdown. I'm not sure what the reason was. I saw a couple articles float around about it, but I know that they, I guess, planned on shutting down for it, and then they reopened. They probably had to take some time to organize how they were going to do their carryout system, and that's the first time I got to see it in person. Thought that was quite interesting to witness. They had this little carryout situation. She just had a little cart outside the front door, geared up as best she could be with her mask and everything, handing this food out to people. It was good to see that they had that much business coming in. I hope we can finally get to a point where we can put that back behind us and things aren't so weird anymore. Where I can go in and actually sit at Kay's Diner. I've never been a huge Kay's Diner person. I know a lot of people have. It's not my particular style of a burger. I think they just let those things float in grease in there. I don't know. Have either you two been to Kay's, or I don't think you've been to Kay's either. I'm not saying it's a bad burger. No, it's a pretty good burger. It's just not my cup of tea. Last time I was in there, I've maybe been in there twice. It's an establishment for sure. You can't talk about Troy's without someone bringing up Kay's. Just something I noticed on my drive out and about today. That's another part about local talk radio. And it's not radio, again, I say it's a local talk show, online based. I could reach someone in Africa with this if I wanted. And this is one reason I love new age media. It's how far it can reach for the cost. I don't understand why some of these mainstream outlets even maintain half the equipment they have. I was in a studio once, 50,000 watt station, terrestrial broadcast. I went down there. They had a $500,000 studio that they didn't use. $500,000 put into the studio, didn't use it. The things I could do with a $500,000 studio, didn't use it. Something interesting that I observed about that. Well, coming fresh off of last week's show, as we interviewed candidate for Miami County Sheriff Paul Reese, which, speaking of which, tomorrow, as of right now, to my knowledge, we are going to be at the Miami County Courthouse for coverage tomorrow. Now, I'm not going out there to cover it and put on that Tom annoying news cadence voice. I'm going out there to set up. Well, I won't give it out. I don't know. We're just going to set up a live stream inside, and we're going to get the results, and as we get them in, we're going to report them to you. You know, we don't have any big plans or anything like that, other than just going there and getting the results. That's the plan as of right now. I feel it's very important for the press to be there. And we messaged the Miami County Board of Elections, emailed a couple days ago, because I knew I was going to need to get some details on if there's an outlet I can plug into, things like that, where they want us in the hallway. It's a courtesy in media to try and get these information beforehand, so when you show up, you're not bumbling around looking for an outlet or constantly bothering someone who's got something going on other than paying attention to your little news table. So we did email them that, and then they told us that they hadn't made a full decision, that they just knew as of right now that candidates and press were going to be allowed there even with COVID-19 at the Miami County Courthouse. So I said, that's fine. Just let me know what you find out come the Saturday meeting. And I figured Monday we'd get a release. And sure enough, the first thing, I rolled out of bed this morning, and that was people were sending me the press release. People were commenting about it. They were wondering what our plans were. As of right now, our plans are still to go to the courthouse tomorrow. The way the new press release read is that they only want 2 people per candidate or issue. So the candidate and one other, I'm guessing. Or the person promoting the issue and one other. And then I assume that extends to the press, because it still said in their press release that press were welcome to be there and that they were going to be giving out unofficial results and updates to the press as they're there. But they did highly encourage that anyone planning on attending go back to, or stay at their home and go back to getting the results off of Facebook. I don't know. I feel it's important to be there in person. I was very bummed out about not being able to do in-person voting. I feel it's very important to be there in person, to not let local officials do that. There's nothing against the Miami County Board of Elections. It's going to take a while for people to get over that severe mistrust. What was it the other day? I think it was Fishy Dave posted the thing he got back from Frank LaRose, which was this was probably maybe a while ago. I don't know. I didn't see the date on it. I just remember reading it. And Frank LaRose sent back that they had finally alleviated some of the oversight into the Miami County Board of Elections after they were made aware of the 6,000 vote loss. It's kind of rough, and too, because now the public has distrust in the Miami County Board of Elections. And now they're trying to come back from it. And he did post along with the response, Frank LaRose, that he was proud of the Miami County Board of Elections for getting this far, coming back this far, and regaining the trust. And it's unfortunate in this case that that's probably all going to be torn apart again, depending on how they handle this. And that's not just here in Miami County. I'm not singling Miami County out. That's going to be a lot of places across the board of the nation that are going to be struggling with that issue. So we'll see. I'm just a fan of in-person voting, but I feel it's important for us to be there as the press tomorrow. So as of right now, we're planning on being there. We're planning on live streaming tomorrow from the Miami County Courthouse. Depending on what goes down tomorrow, we might be live streaming outside the Miami County Courthouse. But they just ask that we maintain social distancing. I, for one, don't believe in it. If you want to maintain free country, by all means, if you believe your health is at risk or that's what you want to do, I would 100% respect the social distancing. And that's why in our press release that we sent out, we mentioned that we have ways of still doing interviews, maybe we don't have to. Maybe no one's going to show up. We don't need to do interviews tomorrow. I don't know. I come prepared when I go out in the field, which is something I don't do very often. I feel like it's very important. If I go out there, it has to be pretty important. Everything I do funnels down to this show and gets redistributed out through the airwaves and video waves here. But that's our plans, and we put in our press release that we would understand 100% if no one wanted to come by for an interview because of that. If someone does, then they're more than welcome to. We have windscreens on the microphones that we can change out, or we can spray with Lysol without spraying the electronic equipment. I mean, we can try our best. There's always going to be an area that you miss. You're always risking exposure whenever you go outside. I know that's breaking news, but there are viruses outside. There might even be ones that are ready to mutate like COVID-19 did into a new form. We might do this again next year with a new strand, or we might go 50 years without discovering a new strand. It's a risk we take living and breathing, I guess. But that is our plans. That kind of gives you an update on what we're doing here, everything that's been happening behind the scenes this week. That's our plans. Unless the Miami County Board of Elections changes it, they better not do a thing where they allow some in and some not. That's not going to be good for them. I really hope they take the ethical, honorable route here, and they're really focused on rebuilding the trust with the community. I think it's very important that press is there to report on it and get those results. If it comes down to it, I mean, it's very possible they might cancel, draw everyone out. Everything's been very last minute this entire election cycle. But we will see come tomorrow. That's our plans right now. We'll let you know. We should be live streaming. I saw this floating around. I keep trying to get into the news here, but there's just so much stuff that I caught blips of. So Paul Reese, we had him on last week for an interview. Went very well. He's been posting recently, Miami County Board of Elections, is the absentee voters lookup current? Are all the requests logged in the system? People are saying they sent them in but didn't receive a ballot, nor do they show having been sent. So he's been posting these little status updates. Go check it out on his page, Paul Reese from Miami County Sheriff, about trying to keep the Miami County Board of Elections accountable. But another issue that maybe some people, they were looking into, I did not have time to research the legality. I want to throw it out there. You can do what you want with the information. Is apparently he's been going around collecting ballots for people that couldn't get out there to deliver them in person. It's a noble cause. I don't disagree with it. I think if it's coming from a good place, but that might be a risky position to put yourself in as a candidate. Can people just pick up ballots for other people? Or does it have to be delivered by a spouse or a family member? Some people were posting about that underneath the post that he had made, that they were out and about in the neighborhoods picking up ballots for people to drop them off. Again, noble cause. If he picks the ballot up, I get where you're coming from. Every candidate wants every vote counted, and they want to make sure it's a fair election. So we are told. Every candidate's going to tell you that. Everyone's going to tell you that. Anyone running for office. You never know the job that someone does until they get into office. And that is an unfortunate part, kind of a curse of doing one of these shows, is you are going to meet people, you're going to meet candidates, and then maybe they'll promise you one thing, and that's just something I've been dealing with forever. I don't get too involved or personal here about it. I just report it and put a spin on, not a spin on it, I should say, put my own opinion on it, and I like to throw it out there. Spinning is for other news outlets. That's not what we do here. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that for a second, because that seems a little bit odd. Zach, do you have...
I'm a little hesitant on it. It's a little... I think it's a noble cause, but too many potential ramifications, if you will. I think you're going to have someone, if he does indeed win, I think you're going to have someone spouting at the rooftops he somehow cheated.
Yeah.
Personally, not a risk I would be willing to take.
Well, that's what I was thinking is we've been doing this whole election based on making sure the Miami County Board of Elections is accounted for. And everyone's kind of upset with the mail-in ballots because who knows where they can get lost. Of course, we just trust that the post office, if they have the person delivering the mail has a different view than us, that they're not going to try and discard that. We trust that there's checks and balances in place. And we hope for that. I hope for that there's checks and balances in place. But I just didn't know you could do that. That seemed a little bit odd to me. Maybe it's totally fine. I don't know. I didn't have time to research it or speak knowledgeably on it. But if anyone has any information on that, we'd like to hear from you. 937-696-7572. BeautifulTroyShow@gmail.com. Or you can just chime in right over on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Beautiful Troy Show. Thought that was interesting. And probably not the best move at the end of a campaign, but maybe there's something I'm not seeing there. So that's how I like to throw things out. I like to put it out there, and if there's something I'm not seeing, I'm more than willing to ask the question and then get the information so that way I am informed. That's how I like to do things. So right here, speaking of Paul Reese, Tip Sergeant returns to duty. By the Troy Daily News, Samantha Wildo. A Tip City Police Department sergeant previously on paid administrative leave has returned to regular duties this week. You'll never guess who it was. It was Sergeant Mark Basie of the Tip City Police Department. He was placed on a paid administrative leave on January 30th following an Ohio Attorney General Bureau of Criminal Investigation BCI report with allegations that Basie disseminated protected information in reference to a traffic stop the Piqua Police Department conducted on Sherry Duchek of Troy, which we all know is the wife of the Miami County Sheriff Dave Duchek, the current one. And I know we had Paul on last week, and we provided him the ability to talk directly to the people. Anyone's welcome involved with these stories. We reached out right now. The other side of the story, Miami Valley Today, of course, named, specific reporters named in this whole ordeal. They can't comment right now. And I can't force people to comment. I'd love to have them up here to talk about it as well. I'd love for them to just give their side of the story. I can't force people to talk. The outlet is here, though. So in the meantime, you're just going to have to put up with me, I guess. But this week, Chief of Police Eric Burris of the Tip City Police Department said he found insufficient evidence to warrant disciplinary action for Basie, and he returned Basie back to his regular duties as of Wednesday. Following a careful and thorough administrative investigation, including a review of materials provided by Ohio BCI regarding Tip City Police Sergeant Mark Basie's alleged involvement in disseminating protected information from a Piqua PD investigation in 2018, I have found insufficient evidence to support disciplinary action against Sergeant Mark Basie. Effective immediately, Sergeant Basie is to be returned from administrative leave to his regular duties. I am not saying that I agree. I think a lot of what's being reported here probably did happen, to be honest. I think the issue here was the legality behind it. Taking a photo of a non-charged person and putting that out there, I could see that might be the legal area. But of course, they've done their investigations. Grand jury did their investigation, and it all came back as nothing. And I remember we were asking Paul Reese about this in the last interview, of the legalities behind taking a photo. I forget the name of the software that the police department uses, but of the police computer. And I had two kind of things there. First of all, is it illegal? It might be unethical. It might not be good. It might be against department policy, which apparently here it might not be, or they didn't find that he violated the policy. I can't speak for all that. That's inner working political stuff, friends talking to each other. I don't get involved with that stuff, as least as I can. But I remember asking him about the photo. Was it sent? The second question I had was, if it was sent, and you have to remember, this was 2 years of history dumped on me a week before. We had reached out to get the side of it, and we were graciously provided with a ton of information. I'm very grateful for that. It allowed me to really catch things up to speed. But it's hard for me to speak. I'm just interviewing people. So, but my questions there were, is it illegal? So even if it all did happen, the larger issue that we are looking at with this is, why are these unredacted reports going out? The large big picture is, why are all these people in our administrative offices sending out all this private information amongst themselves? We've got pictures coming from police computers. We've got unredacted reports getting in the hands of people that can publish them. It's confusing. But I think that was where he was coming from on that. But all I can do is ask the question, and you can decide from there where it goes. I trust my listeners that much. That's what I'm trying to do, is provide that information. So Sergeant Mark Basie has been returned to duty, effective immediately, at the Tip City Police Department. Coming hot off the press there from Troy Daily News. Our next article up for the night is the Trojan family at the Troy City Schools. Online learning to continue for the remainder of the school year. As most of you know by now, we will continue online learning through the rest of the 2020 school year per the executive order of Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. The last day of online instruction will be Thursday, May 28th. While we were saddened we won't be seeing our students in person for the remainder of the year, we understand the importance of keeping our students and staff safe and healthy. We ask that our parents continue to maintain contact with their students' teachers. Our teachers are doing everything they can to educate our students and parents. The parents should not hesitate to contact them if they have any questions at all regarding their child's education. Now, the food service, that will still be provided. That's 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. each Monday. The students can pick up 1 week's worth of breakfasts and lunches, what they would normally be receiving if school had continued. Now, many have asked what this will mean as far as a graduation ceremony for their 2020 seniors. They're exploring all the options and will do everything within their power to honor their seniors, while at the same time maintaining the social distancing standards set forth by the governor. We will communicate our graduation plan as soon as possible. We thank all of you for your patience and support during these difficult and unprecedented times. You always have to fit that word in there, unprecedented. We anxiously await the day we can return to normal in-person learning. Until then, please stay safe and healthy. Sincerely, the Troy City Schools. So an update from the Troy City Schools there. They are going to be continuing the lunch program, which they were doing on the daily basis for a while. And then they said, well, let's scale it back to Monday. That way we don't have to have someone there every single day from those hours handing out one meal. We'll just provide them with a week's worth. I'm assuming they would have to switch over to things that could last for a week. I don't know if they before were providing stuff that only lasts for the day, if it would perish within the day, or what they were providing them with. I'm not sure about the school lunch. Nathan, you went to public school.
What about it?
What's the lunch like there?
Not the best.
What would they provide? What would they provide?
Usually some meat and then some vegetables and then whatever you can buy from the side.
Is this stuff that can last a week? I mean, I'm assuming they had to switch it up.
I can't imagine it would last a week, no.
So I'm assuming that they had to switch it up just for the fact of things like Lunchables maybe or non-perishable goods. That way they can eat for the week. Because you're like bologna?
Bologna.
You think bologna's a good one?
Bologna, turkey,
okay.
Ham sandwiches. I would say probably stuff like that. Most things.
Things you can refrigerate for a week, 5 days or so.
Yeah, most of the time you're not going to refrigerate a pizza.
Because Saturday and Sunday, parents, that's all you.
Bingo.
The school's doing the 5 days a week. So they're still providing that service. That's the biggest part of that announcement there. Let me double check that and make sure that they are going to be continuing that until May 28th. It says it will continue to pass out meals every Monday. Each Monday, students can pick it up. So nothing about canceling it before 28th. So right now it sounds like you have till May 28th, till the release of the summer, to pick up food from the Troy. So they're providing that still to students. Speaking of schools, the Miami East Board of Elections, I believe, BOE, approves electronic meetings. The Miami East Board of Education, I was close. I even read this one beforehand. That one's on me. The Miami East Board of Education has approved a resolution allowing members to participate in future meetings electronically. Board members approve the resolution, which allows members to participate in board meetings either by telephone or other electronic means during their regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, April 20th. The board also announced the creation of the Special Stay Viking Strong. They will have these days each week to help students, staff, parents, and community members stay healthy and connected. Board members went on to approve the acceptance of 3 separate cash donations to the district, including $7,607.85 from the Doris McMillan Living Trust to the Miami East FFA program, $800 from the Ohio FFA Foundation to the Miami East FFA program, and $5,109.50 from the Athletic Boosters to the high school athletic program for uniforms and watches. What do they need watches for, Nathan?
I don't know. That was very out of place.
When I read this article earlier, because I do my best to proofread so I don't get into situations like just a few seconds ago, it's the first thing the call screener said. Watches? Did you ever get a watch in school? That's something you get after 40 years of hard labor.
Maybe... I can't imagine. Maybe stopwatches for track?
Yeah, that could be.
That's the only thing I can think of.
What is this here? It says... I'm trying to find out if this is... It's Special Stay Viking. It's 3 separate. It's the FFA program. It has to do with the FFA. So that maybe they use watches in the FFA. I don't know. We'll find out. But there you have it. If you are... See, I'm not very knowledgeable in the FFA. I'm not going to claim to be knowledgeable, but if you are someone who participates, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, and you can enlighten us here. BeautifulTroyShow@gmail.com, 937-696-7572. Phone lines are already lighting up tonight. We've got to get around to them here soon enough. So WHIO comes out, and they've posted an article. How did medication from clinical trial save Troy respiratory therapist's life? This is their update as of April 24th. After reporting on the clinical trial, a local respiratory therapist credits with saving her from COVID-19. This is according to Molly Koweek of WHIO.com. This News Center 7 reporter reached out to the doctor heading up that trial to find out how the medication works. A few hours after Amy DeVos' first dose of the experimental drug Solaris. Heard of that one? I've not. It's probably because it's experimental still. She showed improvement and continued to get better. According to neurologist Dr. Tom Pitts, everyone's immune system has a complement, but for some with coronavirus, part of that complement does not know how to act. I wonder why. It doesn't recognize it because it hasn't encountered it. I wonder how many things we are exposed to on the daily that our body has never encountered. And the immune system is supposed to have a response. Now, there are people with compromised immune systems, could be of any age with that, and there are the elderly that are most at risk at this, as with most anything. We're basically stopping your immune system from killing you and your lungs while you have time to fight off the virus. Because in the process of trying to get rid of the virus, a MAC, membrane attack complex, will form and it will destroy the lungs. Solaris stops the MAC from forming. While DeVos saw success with her trial, health experts have said there is not enough information yet to show that any one drug is safe and effective to treat COVID-19. There are hundreds of clinical trials occurring around the world to find a cure, but they are in their infancy still. And we're supposedly expected to just wait this thing out until they find a cure. What do we do if they don't find a cure? About the only thing I'm willing to keep doing much longer than a few more weeks after all this, the only thing I'm willing to do, assuming that they don't find a cure, is stay 6 feet away from people at Walmart. No issue with that. Says here, I have the high honor of fighting off some of the most lethal and catastrophic autoimmune diseases in the world on a regular basis. This is the doctor treating this. He said COVID-19 is the most aggressive lung disease he has ever seen. However, by researching previous coronaviruses, he came up with a plan to fight it. This is coming from the husband, Tom DeVos. I was just laying on the couch, being a living wreck, and then he called me and said, hey, I wanted to enroll your wife in a trial. I gave my consent. Within 3 hours, the FDA gave him emergency approval, the Institutional Review Board signed off on the plan, and an ambulance drove the medication from Miami Valley Hospital to Upper Valley Medical Center. Without any bureaucracy or holdups, we were able to mobilize the medicine. You eliminated government from the equation, and you got things done. Saved someone's life. Fascinating. It's a good thing that they report that. I'm glad she lived. Very happy to hear that. What we should be hearing about is all the other people who've been surviving this thing, even without the treatments. There's some stuff in the article there where she gives common... Some of you haven't picked up. I don't have the biggest emotional cue or social cue. Very dry. It's just how I am. I enjoy life like that. And that's how I'm wired. I can't change it. But there's some... So I usually tend to pick up on other people's... And then it just doesn't process. The emotional side does not really process too much. Not often. Sometimes I miss it. So I have to be careful there. But there were some stuff in there about her describing what sounded to me like a normal flu. I felt like I was going to die. How many times have people out here been sick and they said, I feel like I'm going to die. I feel like death. What was that?
Basically every time.
Yeah, I feel like every time I get sick, it's like, I'm going to die. I can't get off this couch. Now, I'm not saying that maybe this one's a little bit more serious, but we got to put things in perspective. The people who have survived, if you really want to stay positive about this virus, stop looking at the death count. Start looking at those who will report it. I know the Sydney Daily News was reporting it. Of all people, the Sydney Daily News was the only guiding light amongst the reports. And then once they started doing it, I started to notice a few more articles came out talking about the recovery rate. And you have to think about how many of the deaths that aren't in our local area truly related to COVID-19. I think even Dr. Amy Acting today was talking about that, where she said that we won't truly know right now if they were tested for COVID. This is maybe their excuse for why they're throwing everything into the COVID death stack. Someone could have died from heart failure. They would have died from heart failure, whether COVID happened or not, was in their system or not. But they're still throwing that as a COVID death. And I think she was trying to clarify today that they're going to be sorting that out later, is from what I gathered. Maybe I didn't hear it right. I don't tune into those things that heavily. So it was good to see this report. I'm glad she lived. I'm glad that there's an experimental drug. Hopefully bureaucracy doesn't hold it up. They were saying that's too inconclusive. Well, she lived. I'd say that's pretty inconclusive, or pretty conclusive if you ask me. And I'm glad that she made it out of that alive. She was younger. I want to say in the 50s. She was one of the Kester nurses, I believe. One of them involved over there. Let me read that real quick before someone comes after me. Here it is. This was from Troy Daily News. I stuck it over here in case I needed a name or some more detail on it, because WHIO, they're trying to cover so many counties at once, and they can't really do a detailed article. Unlike Troy Daily News, they're going to try and dig up any information that they can to keep printing stuff. So I don't blame them. It's good to have news. We need more of it, more local news, more accountability, more people involved and informed about what's going on, more people talking about their local community. Trying to find in here where she worked. I know it said it somewhere. I didn't highlight it. I should have. But she was a therapist. I know that. So as we continue with the new news today that we're going to be doing this till May 12th with a couple different stipulations. Again, I haven't caught up to speed on them yet. And we have a call here. This is from Brad from Troy. Everyone here knows Brad, a welcome regular of the Troy Show. Of course, all of you are welcome. We'll go over to Brad here. He wants to talk about COVID reopening. I think this was a good spot to stop in the show and talk a little about the COVID reopening and see what Brad is up to today. Let's go ahead and throw him in there. Brad, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. Been hearing you for the last half hour or so.
Well, thanks for hanging on there.
Chatting with you tonight. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. We're working things out as per usual, trying to stay as far apart from everyone as we can. Something I practice for the last umpteen years of my life. What's on your mind tonight, Brad?
Well, I've got a lot on my cranium tonight, Kyle.
Well, we've got a lot of airtime.
Had the chance to go over to Columbus this past weekend for the big Reopen Ohio rally.
Oh.
And I have to say it was quite interesting. A lot of people are up in arms about getting Ohio open again. And then our governor comes out today and says, starting Friday, hospitals. On the 4th, businesses, companies. On the 12th, services and retail. But, hope you don't need a haircut in the next couple weeks because you ain't going to get it.
Do I look like I need a haircut?
Restaurant. A little bit. But
Sorry to cut you in the middle of your minute there. A silver platter you gave me there. Continue. We'll give you a couple extra seconds.
Sorry. That's okay. That's all right. It's all right. Hair salons, restaurants, all this stuff, not reopening. Now, wouldn't that fall under retail and goods and services?
I would think so.
Okay. Yeah, it would. Get them open, Dwayne. Now, here's another thing. And I kind of threw this around to some of the rally attenders Saturday. Blew some people's minds away. Do you know we have only 2 ways of getting rid of this governor in Ohio? One is to pray that the legislature will get set up and impeach his ass. But we know that's not going to happen because they're all Republicans. Mm-hmm. Republican Senate, Republican House, Republican governor. Another way is to wait it out for 3 years. Now, do you know why that is, Kyle? I'm
not sure on that one.
I'll tell you why. We don't have the right of recall in the state of Ohio except at the municipal level. We cannot recall our state elected officials, anything, because we don't have that right. It's not in our state constitution. Now, you tell me, if we're supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, how the hell could we not have the recall on our state elected officials?
Valid point, Brad. I'm glad you called. You've filled me in with information here. That's the point of people calling in, is they fill in with information and get it out there. I'm glad you were able to attend one of these. I've been meaning to go over there and cover it and attend it, see it in person. It always Monday I get reminded of it, and to get over to Columbus 2 p.m., get back here in the seat. I could do it, but I don't want to waste. I would rather prep for the show.
If I'd have been able to call in last week,
yeah,
I'd have told you about it. I told your call screener.
Well, even
after you,
they've been meeting over there for like 2 p.m., right?
But see, here's the thing. He's not doing his press conferences at the State House anymore.
Where'd he move him?
Saturday, he's a Department of Public Safety over on Broad Street.
Oh,
because
the old...
he was getting drowned out by the protesters. The old switcheroo.
Who was it? No, DeWine does this a lot, doesn't he, Nathan? Didn't he have to... Well, he did this a while back. That's a good point you mentioned there, Brad. Who chanted "do something" at him a while back?
That was in Dayton, Ohio.
That's what I thought. I knew that was around here somewhere.
That was at the rally for the Oregon District shooting.
Yeah, and they had to tell... we went to another rally at the State House for something completely unrelated. Well, technically related, but not for this show. And that was like the standing thing, is if you see DeWine, you're not, like, everyone was going around telling, like, you're not allowed to yell at him. And then the story was passed around because people kept drowning his speech out last time. But I did not know that they moved it. So...
Yeah, and they were pounding on the State House windows, trying to get his attention. Somebody was. I don't know how many it was. But here's another thing. You know, I don't know if you've had the chance to read it yet. I would encourage you to go read it. There's our state representative has signed on to it. There's about 33 state legislators that have signed on to a plan to reopen Ohio. That's better, I think, than Governor DeWine. And also, now here's another thing that's going to piss you off. Everybody is going to be required to wear a mask at some point.
That's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing that tossed around. I don't know how our local businesses, I saw something from the Chamber of Commerce here in Troy today about how they were going to handle that and what their guidelines were. Some information for the businesses when they try and open up, because they're not the ones who control that, obviously. They were just trying to get the information out for their local businesses. So let walk me back here to this. So if I want to go downtown here and get my hair cut at either two of the fine barbershops down here, what date?
Can't do it.
If they said this is the 12th?
There is no date.
Oh, okay.
There's no date for them to reopen right now.
So what's this May 12th thing? Because I've been hearing that after May 12th, they're going to allow some people to open up. I think what I heard was that retail was going to be looked at on May 12th. Retail
and services.
So, but barbershop's not in that.
Neither barbershops nor sit down, nor restaurants, if they have carry out, yes, they can continue to carry out, but they can't reopen their sit down, their dining room.
That's what I was under the impression of. Is gyms, bars, restaurants, barbershops still not going to be open yet. Larger corporations, manufacturing, things like that are going to be allowed to transition back, provided they have the PPE. Okay,
is Governor DeWine going to supply it for them? Let's be real.
That's kind of the dilemma everyone's having in the local community here, is they want to, best they can, make sure everyone's safe from this thing. But at the same time, at what point in the local community here do we lose our dreams, our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for our business to flourish? At what point do the deaths of COVID start to become lower than the deaths of people not being able to provide for their family, mental health, whatever the case is, due to this whole thing?
Yeah. And another, the governor, Amy Acton, Abortion Amy, I'm sorry, I'm going to say that. And I apologize if I offend anybody in your studio.
They're welcome to call.
But Abortion Amy has taken powers to herself that she has not been and I hold to a certain degree our legislature implicit in this, because why haven't they stepped in and said, you know what, this is not right, this is unconstitutional. They did it. They sure as hell did it with our elections.
That's another point.
Okay.
That's a good one. I've got some stuff
did it
coming
with our
up
elections.
later on in the show that you're going to want to keep your ears open for. I do have some stuff on a lot of points there. We do have to roll along to get to those things, Brad. But as always, thanks for calling in.
Okay, but I got one more.
Yeah.
I got one more thing I want to say before I go.
Sure.
I got one more thing I want to say before I go. I don't know if you saw my post over on the Troy, Ohio Citizens 2.0 page.
I did this week.
When I was watching, not the one about the elections, but the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
I was
Facebook
following
feed.
the Facebook feed last week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you were talking with Paul Reese, there was a gentleman on there on the Facebook feed. His name was Myron Wheeler.
Yes, the renowned Myron
Okay.
Wheeler.
Yes. And I don't know if you caught my Facebook post on, I don't know if it's on your page or Troy Citizens 2.0. Myron, I'm going to direct this right to you if you're listening. I said it on the Facebook page, and I'm going to say it here. Show us your proof. Show us your proof that Paul Reese is doing wrong, okay? And I'll believe it. If you don't show your proof, you have zero credibility with me, pal. And you can send your brother after me if you want to. I don't care. It's a free damn country, and I'm going to say what's on my mind.
Well, we will look forward to the
trashing-
rebuttal from Myron on that.
You've been trashing. Well, here's the thing. He's been trashing Paul Reese ever since this got started.
Oh, I've
I don't
seen
know
it.
if, you know, like I said, you should have seen the feed last week.
Yeah, like
wish you
I
could've.
was mentioning
And-
earlier, it's very hard for me to look at that while I do the show because I'm sure, as we know, and it wasn't Myron was a big part of it, but it wasn't just Myron in the feed. It was a couple other people. But if I went over and looked at that, I mean, you saw how much he was posting in rebuttal, and there were some other people in there that may be
Right.
valid concerns. And I know he's got a whole thing that he wants to prove against Paul Reese. I'm not the one to decide who's technically right in this scenario. I can only give my opinion like you or Myron would be able to. But I did happen to see some of it afterwards, and I didn't get to read up on all of it. I don't get too down in the weeds with stuff like that, but I figured we'd get a report on it here from you. I do appreciate you filling me in on that, but that's why I can't keep up with the Facebook feed during that, because, I mean, if I asked him every single question that was there, which was admitted by most of the people asking the questions that they had already asked him this question at some point, probably in person too. So I'm not going to be able to get him to give a different answer if that person has already. But I did see it, Brad. Does not go unnoticed at the eyes here at the Troy Show. And
Because I'm going to tell you, it really pissed me off because here I believe Paul Reese could bring some integrity to the sheriff's department. And yes, it needs a house cleaning. It sorely needs a house cleaning. Duchek and his kind have been around for too long. And why? And I hope Paul is listening because I think Paul has a very good case to send a lot of this stuff, okay, to the Board of Professional Conduct of the Ohio Supreme Court. Do you know what that is?
I'm not familiar with that particular board, but I could see this thing going that high.
The Board of Professional Conduct investigates allegations of wrongdoing by attorneys, and they have the power to recommend a suspension or a disbarment of an attorney if they're found to be committing wrongdoing. I used to watch the Supreme Court all the time on the Ohio Channel. It's quite interesting stuff. But
I forgot about the Ohio Channel.
Yeah.
Is that still around?
Yeah, it's not on satellite or cable. You have to get broadcast TV to get it.
Oh, okay. Well, I wonder if I can catch a live stream on there. I don't know. I got rid of cable a long time ago, Brad.
You can actually catch it on the Ohio Supreme Court website. I believe they stream cases there.
Well, I will look into it, and
but I'm going to make one more thing, and then I'm going to jump off here.
Sure.
And you mentioned the census. You said you didn't fill one out 10 years ago?
No, I couldn't at the time. I don't think I could. At least I don't remember it
No,
being
you
handed
couldn't,
around.
but your parents did. You're probably on your parents' census form.
I'm assuming they did. They're not the most census people that I know of. I don't know if they fill it out. Again, that was 10 years ago. I can't remember. I do remember the general atmosphere, but I don't remember the details.
Well, if they didn't, they probably had somebody knocking on their door.
Could be.
Because if you don't fill that form out, you get somebody knocking on your door.
Yeah, they get very grumpy about it. I'm not completely against it. I will take a look into it and
Right.
see what we've got going on. But Brad,
It's how we get our representatives in Congress.
well, I hope. I was looking at that. I reached out to some people that I know that are a little bit more astute on these things, and they were telling me that it was a good idea to fill it out. It's the first time I've looked into it, so it's supposedly, as everything is supposedly supposed to do that. So if that's the case, I'll look into it and fill it out. We might do it live
Well, yeah,
on the
you
show.
definitely want to fill it out because your representation in Congress counts on it.
Well, I 100% agree with that. I
So-
think that might sway me if that's the case.
Yeah. So listen, I will hang up and listen to the rest of the show. It's good talking to you again, and I'll talk to y'all next week.
Well, Brad, we appreciate you calling in. As always, we'll look for maybe a rebuttal from other people, and we'll just see where this goes. We will be following that very closely. Kick back and relax for the rest of the night, and we will soothe your jangled nerves here,
All right.
Brad.
All right, thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Bye. Well, we'll see how that drama unfolds here in the community. It is not something we shy away from here. We do not shy away from tougher conversations or tougher opinions. That is the point of the show. Anyone mentioned tonight is more than welcome to rebuttal. Phone lines open to everyone. 937-696-7572. Always good to hear from Brad and anyone here in the community. Troy, Ohio, and surrounding area of Miami County and neighboring counties. Like I said, we could reach people in Africa with this thing if we wanted to, but a lot of people do tune into stuff like this in their local communities. They'll go join these groups or they'll listen to shows like these because they've moved on. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to get my politicians mixed up. Why do I want to say that our mayor has some family overseas abroad? I won't name specific countries to get myself. I just remember her talking about that. So people like that tune in to listen to the show. I'm not saying they are tuning in. I'm saying people with that situation tune in to remember their hometown or see what's going on. This show is not for everyone. I don't claim it is. I make it open to everyone. But I could see where not everyone's going to, and I just sit up here, do my thing, and do the best that we can to keep everyone informed. Weekly recap of Troy, Ohio. Not news slammed between music. We actually break it down a little bit. This is kind of some sad news here to transition out of that. And a lot of Brad's points tonight, we have some articles covering that later up, some stuff I want to talk about as well. So, unfortunately, though, Bill and Kathy McIntosh used to work with Bill, great guy, co-conductors of the Troy Civic Band, have announced the cancellation of the 2020 season. It is with a heavy heart that, after careful consideration, the Troy Civic Band has canceled its 2020 summer season. This decision was made due to the fact that many of our patrons are in the high-risk category, as are some of our musicians, and we will not put either group at risk. Now, the band will return in 2021 at Treasure Island Park. I do suggest doing that after the festival's heaviest hit rains of the year and of spring if you're going to regroup. You might not want to be wet while you're playing. But it will be nice for them to use the little amphitheater down there that we dumped over $1 million into in the lighthouse. It's nice. It works for stuff like this. I look forward to the return. I like to hear the Troy Marching Band. Bill and Kathy do a great job with it. They are genuine people, and they truly do care about what they do. But I hope that the timing works out for them at Treasure Island Park. When it's not flooded, it's nice. Not going to lie. The renovations were nice. The restaurant down there is nice. I should say I've heard it's nice. I haven't personally got to eat there yet. When this all gets out of the way and we can resume eating again, I will go down there and try this. But a couple other things that were canceled around the county. Pickwa's Cakes for a Cause, a fundraiser of the Pickwa Community Foundation, has been canceled for this year, according to Karen Wendelin, executive director. While we had originally intended to postpone the event until late summer, it seems that we would be better advised to cancel this year's event and look forward to having our next Cakes for a Cause event in April of 2021. Wendelin said, "We are disappointed, but no, it will be for the best, and that next year will be bigger and better than ever." A lot of people are not canceling because they'll still be under the stay-at-home order. A lot of people are canceling because I think they're not going to see the crowds they were expecting this summer. It's probably financially viable for them to just cancel than to expend all the funds on the event and then get people's attendance underneath. Plus, a lot of their funds have already been expended during this. A lot of people thought that this was going to be a May 1st, we're open, we're back at it. Even if that were the case, even if they said that, no one's going to want to go back out in this. No one's going to have the extra cash to spend at these events, even throughout the summer. Everyone is scraping together what they can to get out of this. And then on top of that, even if there was an event like the Troy Strawberry Festival, which has been canceled till 2021, no, put your coats away. That was a fake article. It's not coming back in the winter. We talked about that last week. It'll be back in 2021. But things like the Strawberry Festival, let's say we open May 1st or May 12th now, and we came right out in the first weekend of June. Well, now you got to pay your water bill. Do you have extra money to, because the city didn't waive that or add it on the back end of anything, you got to pay your water bill. You're expected to. I'm not sure what they're going to do after this or if their minds are going to change. Last I heard, you have to pay your water bill at some point at the end of this. They couldn't waive it. They still had to get their money. They're concerned about their money. They're going to get it back. But your event, canceled. Income you counted on, canceled. Now, a public Memorial Day ceremony at Riverside Cemetery for 2020 has been canceled. A private ceremony will be held by the Veterans Memorial Honor Guard of Troy. The private ceremony will consist of a 21-gun salute, playing of taps, and placing a wreath at the Veterans Memorial Flagpole and Old Soldiers Circle. It will be performed promptly at noon, Monday, May 25th. So the public Memorial Day ceremony at Riverside Cemetery canceled for 2020, but the private ceremony will be held by the Veterans Memorial Honor Guard of Troy. I wonder, have you tune in on this, Zach? Do you think that putting up a camera for that would be respect? I think, I know usually it's open to the public at the Riverside Cemetery.
I personally wouldn't see why it would be disrespectful.
Put one up so people could still witness the ceremony. They do this all the time. There's plenty of this, like C-SPAN throws these ceremonies out there.
Yeah, I mean, they do this, so they do it at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It's a good example, and in my opinion, probably a little bit more.
They do have a lot of people video that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I don't think it would be a problem.
It's going to be performed promptly at noon, Monday, May 25th. We might. I know it's canceled to the public. We'll see if we can contact them or at least get a shot of it in the most respectful way possible, because it's unfortunate that happened. It really is. But there's a lot of weight and severity to that situation. So, I mean, we might look into that just so people can still see it and pay their respects, but from home instead of going out there. That's an open place. I mean, I feel like you could keep 6 feet away at that cemetery.
Yeah, I would say as long as you're keeping your social distance, and you're not encroaching on anything. I don't think they would have an issue with it. But I think, like you said, just reach out to them maybe and just say, hey,
I think their concern might be that the crowd that would go, I would assume, would be a lot of other veterans or people who want to go pay their respect. Not just, but a lot of veterans, and veterans are older in age at this point.
I would say most of the... I'm sorry, I was going to say, I would say most of the people who would probably wind up going would be your elderly and what is the quote-unquote high-risk population.
Which I don't disagree with that at all. Again, if you really are in genuine fear of this virus, then do everything you can to protect yourself. It comes down to you at the end of the day. You've got to protect yourself at the end of the day. And I could see in this area canceling the clientele there. How long we can live like this, it definitely is not much longer. It definitely can't be the year or over the year that DeWine wants. But we'll find out. I just thought it might be something we'll look at going over there, at least trying to present best we can. As we roll along, that's some of the cancellations that we've found this week that they have canceled. Now, the county... they're weighing plans to reopen buildings here in Miami County. The Miami County Commissioners Thursday talked with county elected officials about how things might look when the county offices reopen to employees, all according to DaytonDailyNews.com. Many of those employees have been working at home in the community, which has had access mostly by appointment due to COVID-19. The commissioners did not say when buildings would reopen, nor what requirements would be followed. They said more information from the governor's office will help set those standards. The officials talked about whether facial masks would be required by those entering buildings, the frequency of cleaning, and other matters of daily business, including how many people could be in a courtroom or other venue. Now, the Miami County officials, The issue with that they were discussing, and these are some things that they have to work out with, because we have another article here from the Troy Daily News by Samantha Wildo. For Miami County commissioners, they're holding roundtables with elected officials. Kind of goes hand in hand with the last article. Let me double check that before I have the president of Troy correcting me, which he was correct in that situation. I appreciate the extra information on that. I don't like when I get things wrong, and when I do, I like to correct them. So let me make sure here. The county weighs plans to reopen buildings. Miami County commissioners held a roundtable with elected officials. So it goes hand in hand here. Now, the Board of Miami County Commissioners held a roundtable with elected officials on Thursday, with some attending in person and others listening in remotely. While there is still no decision made yet as to when the commissioners will reopen county buildings to the public, the commissioners and elected officials discussed how to protect their employees in the county buildings. Commissioner Jack Evans was unsure if they would have the authority to require the public to wear face masks if they will be going into county government buildings. My answer, no. But that's just me. Miami County Common Pleas Court Judge Janine Pratt suggested the county could offer face masks to the public, but the question of supply was another issue. Everybody in the state is trying to get them, Miami County Emergency Management Agency, EMA as they call it, Director Joel Smith said. Evans also questioned if the county provided face masks to their employees, would the county then be required to offer face masks to the public? No. County is under no obligation to offer face masks to the public. They're disposable, they'll get thrown away. I'm not on board with the face mask thing. I'm not going to get into that, but we'll keep it here. But Smith said for county employees who qualify as essential employees, face masks could be considered part of their necessary equipment in order to complete their duties. The Miami County Health Commissioner Dennis Probst also added the county will have the same responsibility as businesses in protecting its employees, so the county will need to follow any guidelines the state gives to employers. He added later that they do not know what future restrictions for employers will be yet as the state begins to reopen following the stay-at-home order, but he said the county will have to make its best effort to meet state standards. Evans also asked if the county would be liable if they provided face masks to employees and employees would still got infected with COVID-19. I don't know how. He says here it would be difficult to prove where the employee caught the virus, but I don't know how you could hold them accountable if they're giving you the PPE to survive this spooky 19. But that is the lawsuit era that we live in, isn't it? Did it again. Got my news discard pile mixed up with my... Oh, we'll just sort through it all here. And we got some sound bites coming up, too, we're going to get to and dive into some planning commission meetings. Some stuff to talk about what's going on in the downtown area, some stuff they approved. I want to talk about their Zoom conferences. What's the next article here that we're going on to? So the county is looking into reopening the buildings, but we will find out exactly what all that entails. 937-696-7572. If you've got any questions, beautifultroyshow@gmail.com, or you can chime in over in our unofficial Troy group, official Troy Show group, facebook.com/groups/Troy Ohio Citizens. If you want to take the conversation further directly to your fellow citizens and surrounding area, maybe out of town people, let them know what's going on. That's the group for you right there. Now, Jenna Powell, is encouraging small businesses to provide input. State Representative Jenna Powell is encouraging small business owners throughout her district to share their experience on how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted their operations, as leaders seek to understand the full extent of the coronavirus in Ohio's economy. I can tell you what the full extent is on the economy, and I can already see it for them. It does not take someone. I know she's going to be getting business owners in here to talk about what they're going to do and try and get everyone's voice listed here best that they can. I'm assuming that's what this is being set up for, kind of like President Trump's task force on a more local level for businesses. As a member of the Ohio 2020 Economic Recovery Task Force, I've been having thoughtful conversations with business owners from across our state. According to Powell, she says, I encourage the hardworking people in Miami County and Darke County to provide their insight to the task force so their perspective is represented as we reopen Ohio as quickly as possible. A lot of people's perspective, which they're not listening to, is to reopen it now. There's been no middle ground with the state, but now they're expected to have middle ground here. We're expected to have middle ground with them. As a member of the Ohio 2020 Economic Recovery Task Force. Interesting. Can't say I'm a huge fan. Not of the task force, of just, I know how this task force is going to go. Well, we hear your concerns and we've looked into it. About bores me to death, but it is what it is. There's nothing wrong with the idea of the task force. There's nothing wrong with the idea of businesses coming together. This is what's best for the business. If I'm a business owner, which I am, the first thing I say is, well, I can't shut down. That's not feasible. Can't do that. Maybe I could take a week loss, maybe 2, but a month? No, I couldn't do a month. A year? No, I can't do a month. I can't do a year. Can't do that. What we can do is practice these guidelines, which so many businesses were practicing. I know there's been all these reports on Facebook of people just typing up a storm about certain people not practicing stuff in the stores, or the stores need to do better, or they need to yell at people putting groceries on their conveyor belt and get a ruler out, smack everyone on the wrist if they try and put their groceries up on the conveyor belt too early. But we will see. But that's not feasible to do that. Some of the larger companies, but the countless businesses that have folded, hopefully they come back. Hopefully they have the entrepreneur spirit and the next idea. Hopefully it wasn't their dream to have that particular thing. Maybe it'll work out better for them. Maybe it won't. So many lives and dreams, but I'm not going to sit here and ignore that side of it either and just say, everyone stay inside, everyone stay safe, everyone stay home. Just shut it down. If we're doing this to May 12th, can we just shut it down for 2 weeks? If we're going to add another 2 weeks, just shut it down. Oh, but you can't do that because people at hospitals would die because no one was there to take care of them. People would go hungry. People would not have money. There's not enough money. So that's not going to, the flattening of the curve is not going to take any more deaths. It's not, what are the numbers? What have they said, Zach?
Which numbers?
For flattening the curve.
I don't know. We're about a week and a half past the flattening of the curve,
Okay.
according to the 9th or 10th, 15th reiteration of random numbers that they pulled out of a hat that I'm pretty sure, because they've been completely off. The numbers I do know is that currently there's about 30% of the entire population of the United States that is out of work.
Did we save lives by flattening the curve, or did
No.
we? So we lost. Because what I keep hearing, I'm not confirmed this, and I don't even think they have confirmed numbers either. No one has confirmed numbers right now. We're just trying to figure this out as we go. From what I'm told, the flattening of the curve was to prepare our hospitals for this massive spike.
That never happened.
I think it happened months ago.
Most likely months ago. We
Wintertime.
know now. We are finding out now that they have been tracking this since January. What day did the House give the articles of impeachment against Trump? Was that January?
That was back there.
6th, roughly?
It was somewhere back there.
Okay, well, whatever day that was, find that date, and that's the date we know that there was the first confirmed case.
Okay.
The flattening of the curve at this point has just been BS. We know now that the preparation of hospitals has never come. Prime example is the president sends 2 boats, to New York City and California. They weren't used, but for maybe a small handful of people.
I give places like New York a pass, but this is Troy, Ohio.
Correct.
This is Miami County. This is the Midwest.
So here is my question on the thing. Why are we not taking this in, say, Louisiana, where New Orleans is the hardest hit of Louisiana? But they're like, well, we can't keep our whole state closed. Why are we not picking those harder hit areas, say Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland,
Sure.
Toledo, where they're getting hit? This is Troy, Ohio. What is the population here?
Just about almost 26,000.
26,000. How many confirmed cases in Miami County as a whole?
We only got up to what, 12, 15? I'd
Okay.
say 20 on the high end, and
So-
that was just because of an outbreak in one pavilion. I think there was one or two people outside of it that caught it. I want to say those two, the people outside of it, we know the therapist recovered
Correct.
out of the Kester Pavilion debacle.
So here's the thing. So out of 20,000 people, roughly, in Troy, we had a total confirmed case of somewhere in the ballpark of, let's say, 20.
Mm-hmm.
If my
Of,
math...
of confirmed, those are death numbers.
Correct. But even...
I think only two, that's what I'm going to say, only two, I think, died outside of it. It's hard to tell because KHN here, the newly developed Kettering Hospital in Troy, from what I was told, that they, along with a couple other Kettering hospitals, are sending their COVID patients, or those they suspect, to Grandview. And I know this for a fact. I'm not going to get into names over it. But these hospitals are hemorrhaging money. And these healthcare workers that we've all been praising as heroes on the front lines are only on the front lines of the unemployment line.
Correct. And that is a massive issue right now. I read an article earlier, I believe it was MSNBC or CNN, I don't remember which, so I take this about 50% reliable, but they were saying at this point there is a lot of hospitals that realistically will not come back from this. They have hemorrhaged money so bad. Drive past any hospital at this point. I don't care what hospital is in Troy or the surrounding area at 10 o'clock at night now. You're lucky to see maybe a dozen cars, and of that, most of them are way out in the parking lot, which means they are most likely employees. Take that 6 months prior to this. So take it back to roughly January. 10 o'clock, it's packed.
Yeah, I mean, well, third shift, and I know this for
Before was January 16th.
January 16th.
Thank
what
you.
date was I looking for?
That's
I didn't know we had a
That was the date.
someone searching. Well, so that was the date for the impeachment. That's what it was. Yeah.
I'll be looking stuff up when you.
That sounds good.
Flat on the answers. So.
No, you said we're putting together quite the team. But the point I'm getting at with all this, and that's just some numbers there, is there are a lot of sides to this. It's a good thing to have a task force, and I hope, I really do, that Jenna Powell listens to these business owners, listens now to reason, because I genuinely think that even these medical experts were caught in the dark on this one, whatever the case is, whatever your reasoning is on that. And that's how we've ended up with this local impact here, because I think the curve happened. I know a lot of people that displayed the symptoms of this thing months and months and months ago. And they were fine. So we could actually have a huge rate, and I'm hoping we have a huge recovery rate. So out of Troy, and it's sad that anyone was lost, but there does come a time where it's your time to go, and it's unfortunate, and people want to find a reason to blame, but sometimes it's just the universe. And sometimes there's only so much we can fight nature. And honestly, we are very fortunate to have the medical minds that do this on a daily basis. We are so fortunate to have these things, a thing like Troy Kettering Hospital. We're so fortunate to have things like UVMC. We're fortunate to have these places. No matter what the nicknames of the Miami Valley Death Center is, or people who are opposed to Kettering, no matter the nicknames, I'm just saying at the base level, medical people, we are fortunate to have them. It's amazing to me that just a few decades ago, there were so many more things in this world that you'd be just caught dead for. Now we can extend life so much further. We should really think of every day as a gift. I do. I think of every day I wake up, could die from anything. I just had a friend today told me that a longtime friend of theirs, and I believe their 50s, collapsed out of nowhere. Hopefully doing all right tonight. That's what we hope. I can't sit here living, and I don't know what the mental impact in our local community is going to be like from this either. I hope that's taken into account. The amount of people that maybe just found purpose in the job, got out of the drugs, or whatever the case is, got back to living life, now put back out, and the only option they have are those things. I hope they've considered the mental health aspect of this. I hope they've considered all aspects. Just as the businesses here in our local community would have a hard time compromising. Like, we can't shut down our business. So is the state saying, well, we can't shut down the entire economy, and we're left in this weird middle ground, this gray area. So just a couple numbers and food for thought tonight. Always welcome to chime in with your thoughts. So a regional transit is in line for $81 million in the local area here. Regional transit line is up for $81 million to be received. There's 3 of them. Montgomery, Greene, and Miami County bus systems expect to receive millions in federal funds, according to DaytonDailyNews.com. Montgomery, Greene, and Miami County bus systems are in line for $81 million in federal CARES Act funding. The Greater Dayton RTA expects to receive $75 million. Green Cats Public Transit, $4.6 million, and Miami County gets a whopping $1.7 million. Now, of course, we don't have the RTA system that Dayton has, but we do have smaller buses, Miami County buses, that get people in and out of work. You look like you're itching at the gun on this one, Zach. Is that I don't think that's an actual saying, but
It's close enough. I'm more fascinated by...
Well, just the numbers there.
There it is. Look, I get...
Montgomery gets $75 million.
I get... Okay, for a small...
Those guys up in the corn, we'll give them 1.7. It's not like their buses are got to get people to work.
For a small county, I get it. Look, they do a lot of good. They help the elderly, especially the elderly.
Can they ride on buses right now?
Probably not.
How many people can you realistically take on a bus right now?
Realistically, sure, they could. Should they? No. The reality is it's like this. My grandma's like 70. I don't know. If she hears me, just call her 70 and she's only 68. She's going to kill me, but whatever.
Doesn't look a day over 67.
Exactly. Look, the reality is she's like constantly calling me, can you go get me this? Absolutely. Why? I don't want her going out. That's what everybody should be doing. Help your elderly neighbor.
A lot of my family are doing that. They're sanitizing the groceries. Look,
exactly.
I practice these things anyway. Not to the ridiculous degree where I'm not going to stick my... look, when you bring a produce home from Walmart or Kroger here, or Heron's Market, okay?
You should be washing it off anyway.
Wash your produce. You know, clean your boxes before you eat and you're pouring stuff out of a cereal box into your bowl. Wash your hands when you pet your dog. I mean, think about so many people are so scared of viruses, but those same people will have pets in their homes.
Well, and there it is. So a lot of people ask me, "Oh, aren't you scared of whatever?"
Well, you have a lot of lizards.
Well, there it is. So one of the big things that I have to take biosecurity anyway. I deal with all kinds of things, whether it be the feeders that I feed them or them themselves. Like yesterday, I was cleaning cages. They were, quite frankly, disgusting. I'm not going to hey, I'm going to itch my eye after just handling this snake that had, went to the bathroom. Sure. I'm not going to do that. So you wash your hands. It's not that difficult. It's not.
Yeah.
A little bit of hand sanitizer, a little bit of soap goes a long ways.
I think
we don't need to lose.
I think there's a lot that's led to this personally.
Oh.
A lot of other stuff that's led to this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We've really got to, there's an argument to be made that the masks aren't. But anyway, speaking of buses,
I just want to know where they're coming up with these dollars.
I don't know. I mean, they're giving $81 million. We'll read a little bit further here. It's good practice to not just read the top of the article. We'll give it $81 million. So total of $75 million out of that is going to the Greater Dayton RTA. Fair enough. They get a larger chunk. It's a bigger bus system. It probably costs a lot of money to operate that. I've not looked into this. This could be, I'm not familiar with the numbers of it. I'm just here reporting. That's what they're getting. But it strikes me as odd, first of all, but they might have just a severely smaller thing, but they don't need it. Maybe they're doing fine. Maybe this is an increase. Maybe last year they only got 500,000. I don't know those numbers. So that just did strike me a little bit funny at first.
I mean, the Lakers got 10 million or 6 million, something like that. The Los Angeles Lakers. So,
Well, don't you dare make a joke. Don't do that.
I wasn't making a joke. I'm just saying.
Not allowed to joke.
But for real, they did get I think it was $6 million.
Well, I don't blame you. I'm not a basketball person.
$4.6 million.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, we have to be able to use the basketball courts first.
This is true. Speaking of which, Sydney has taken down their hoops and chain them off.
Oh, they've officially done that, huh?
Yes.
Sydney did that.
Yes.
You sure they weren't just missing to start with?
Well, I mean, maybe. I did personally witness one of the cops take one down.
Okay, all right, well.
And the mayor kind of gave
You live up there in
a
Sydney.
little bit of a nasty gram.
Who is your mayor?
I actually don't know.
No,
I think it's some older man.
Used to do. Yeah, I
I
remember
can't
now.
remember his name.
He's a nice gentleman.
He is very nice.
But,
I've talked to him once
he's a
or
mayor.
twice. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I mean, they're doing what they can right now,
Yep.
I guess. I don't know. That mayor's, it's a city council you really should look at.
Yeah.
Really
Oh,
is. In your local community, listen to what your city council's saying. That's where the shots are being called. The mayor is a PR person. The mayor is there as a team spirit player. That's what the mayor does. There's a lot of other responsibilities, but what do you...
Sydney Mayor Mike Barhorst.
Barhorst.
There it
That's
is.
I remember now.
Thank you.
Yeah. I used to do a segment with him back in the good old terrestrial days. But
I remember those days.
they were fun days.
They were.
Through good and bad, but now, like I said, we can reach people with Africa and hear it 4 times less, 5 times, 10 times less the cost. I don't know. But I would rather just reach the local people around here and talk specifically about our community. So that's what's happening with the bus line system. Miami County Transit getting $1.7 million from the CARES Act, and Green Cats Public Transport $4.6 million. Of course, Dayton pulling the larger chunk there, as to be expected. Now, it's extremely important for us, said Bob Ruinsky, Deputy CEO for Greater Dayton RTA. Without it, like any other agencies, we would have been looking at major cuts. The amounts of CARES money to be provided are based on the agency's typical grant funding through the Federal Transit Authority officials. Greater Dayton RTA is to receive $39.7 million for normal operations and $35.3 million for the Dayton trolley system. Do they have a trolley system? I know that didn't go well for Cincinnati. That was I don't know if you ever heard that story. It's not something I can get into here. But
I do know. Yeah,
I
do know
believe
the
I believe
story.
the trolley system in Dayton is just electric buses, more or less.
oh, okay.
They
Yeah,
have-
those
they-
wire buses.
They have the lines
yeah.
above
Oh, yeah,
that they
yeah,
hook onto.
No, I
Okay.
think Cincinnati actually spent a ton of money on actual trolleys from
They
like
did.
2 of them for like Europe. It didn't end well.
But then again, they also have a subway, so
That's true.
that I don't ever think was completed.
I never take it when I'm down there. Cincinnati, I'll just walk.
Well, yeah.
This isn't New York.
Yeah.
This isn't the National Mall. This is...
Yeah, it's weird.
But it's... I love Cincinnati. If I had to pick a major city that I was going to live in, it would be Cincinnati.
Yes.
That's my favorite major city out of...
Cincinnati or Nashville.
We might as well go to
or
Nashville. Yeah.
Nashville's beautiful.
Well, before we get too further down the rabbit hole here, I think this is going to be very important that they have this money coming out of this, because if they don't have this money coming out, a lot of people are going to be relying on this to get to their jobs. I'm not usually a proponent of the bus system, but in this case, I think it'd be helpful that they have this money coming out, because people are going to need it for transportation to jobs to restart the economy. I'm not a bus analysis, though, so we'll just read it to you here as we've got it. The system receives 65% of its funding from sales tax and 15% from fares. Since COVID-19 restrictions, our ridership is down by half. You don't say. We can just guess what's happening with sales tax receipts. The money is to enable Greater Dayton RTA to keep 650 employees on the payroll and off employment. The money comes from $25 billion earmarked for public transit in the federal $2 trillion package passed on March 27th. Both Greene and Miami County contract with First Transit for their transit services have seen reductions in on-demand rides. Because of reduced demand, 4 of 20 drivers are picking up riders requested on the demand service in Miami County. We're still providing these essential services, said Sarah Baker, Miami County Transit General Manager. We're just ready to get back into our normal routine of services. So if you wanted $2,000 check, you can thank the Greater Dayton RTA for taking $75 million of that check that you could have got, those Donald dollars. But I don't know what that would have amounted to. A $75 million split amongst the amount of people that got that. Probably not much.
No.
Extra $20 or something. I don't know. So the next section up is our crime section, which we'll get into. But just to end everything on a nice positive note, a former graduate of the Troy High School, some people may know her, former NASA astronaut and current Texas A&M University professor, Nancy Curie Gregg, has voiced support for Troy teachers and students. She posted a video on YouTube, and we have the audio here at the Troy Show.
Howdy, Trojans. This is Nancy Curry Gregg. I'm a graduate of Troy High School. I'm also a former astronaut. So I wanted to take just a moment and to send out some words of encouragement both to the students and to the teachers of Troy. To the teachers, and as a professor myself at Texas A&M University, who has had the transition to online teaching, I have so much admiration for you as you try to keep the students engaged, try to keep them on track, and to try to keep up their educational pursuits. To the students, and as a grandparent who's helping my own third grade granddaughter throughout this transition, I know how tough this has been. You have my utmost admiration and respect. What you're doing today in keeping up your schooling while staying at home is really a service to your community. So keep up the great work, keep up your schoolwork, and to everyone throughout my beloved hometown of Troy, Ohio, stay safe, stay healthy.
Words of encouragement from former NASA astronaut and current Texas A&M University professor Nancy Curry Gregg, graduate of Troy High School. She posted that video a while back. You may be wondering what we were laughing about while that was playing. It was not the audio clip. I was paying attention as ever. I can multitask. It's something I've learned over the years. We put the live feed of the show up on the 65-inch TV we have here in the studio, and it's weird seeing yourself on top of a giant screen like that. But little words of encouragement from Nancy Curry Gregg to kind of wrap up a little bit of a not the greatest news we've gotten. It's been a mixture this week. Have fun talking about it here. Time to get into our crime section. First article up on the show. A Troy junior football treasurer charged with theft. According to the Troy Daily News, Melanie Yinks, the Troy man who allegedly, now this article, no charges here, allegedly, stole $15,000 from Troy junior football, will be arraigned on the felony theft charge in June. Craig May, 69, of Troy, was charged with fourth-degree felony theft of funds from the Troy Junior Football Boosters program. His arraignment will be June 9th in Miami County Municipal Court. May was the former treasurer of the organization and has since been relieved of those duties. Now, according to reports, Troy Junior Football's new president was reviewing the organization's financial records and noticed $14,935 was missing. The bank statements from December 2018 to the present showed 18 checks were written for cash, as well as 31 ATM withdrawals were made from the account. The former president of the organization said the checks were in May's possession, which he had signed ahead of time for convenience. May was allegedly confronted about the missing funds, said he'd pay them back, and claimed he thought he only took $1,000. No civil agreement was made, and the Troy Police Department was contacted at the advice of the organization's lawyer. May did not provide a statement to police and was summoned on the charge by mail. I'm sure we will get more details on that story. Next up in the stack. A Piqua woman leaves her children home alone to go to Taco Bell, report says. Well, you can't take them to daycare. You can't take them to your grandparents' house. You can't take them anywhere. I don't know why she couldn't have taken them in the car for a little fourth meal to Taco Bell, which cannot wait until the fourth meal hours return, or the breakfast for Taco Bell. That is a staple of my day. Bacon breakfast crunch wrap, medium orange kickstart, and hash brown. And some days skip the hash brown. You know, that's the one item that sometimes I skip, but I stay pretty consistent. Don't ever get the sausage one. Get the bacon breakfast crunch wrap. Speaking of it, you were on your way over to the studio, Nathan, and you went to the Troy Taco Bell over here, which is the most hit or miss. It's the quickest or the slowest drive-through in Troy.
Yeah, I got there. It was backed out on the street. Took about half an hour to get any food.
Oops.
So
Well,
I was a little late here, but
did you leave your kids at the house?
yeah.
We get that late night meal. Now, the story develops, though, because she is facing a child endangering charges after she told police her children were left at home alone so she could go get food from Taco Bell. This is according to WHIO.com. Now, Morgan Collier was arrested by Piqua police an hour after police first discovered a child in a crib and a child sleeping in bed alone at her house, a police report read. Stated that she had no food and was hungry, so she decided to go with a friend to Taco Bell. The report read, Morgan advised that she was only gone a few minutes, but I advised her that we had been at the home for nearly an hour. I believe this is coming from the officer who responded to the scene. When officers first got to the house, the door was unlocked, the report read. Inside, I could see the television was on, playing cartoons, and there was a car seat and children's clothes and toys scattered throughout the room. After being told to check on the welfare of the children, police entered the home and found the children left home alone. She was ordered to appear in court later this month and was released. Miami County Children's Services was contacted. Miami County Children's Services was contacted. Were or was? I don't know. I'm not a grammar person, so I'm not going to nitpick it.
Right.
You said you'd say were?
I would say were.
Well, they said was. Not make a big deal of it, but contacted about the case, and the children were released to a family member. Everyone here knows I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to articles, but I think that one is one of those ones where people say it one way and it's not a big deal. So for me, it was read, I read it differently, but other people would read it differently. Now, I want to know in this story, because I don't have the information here, I went to WHIO.com before I started the show to see if there was any update on this. I don't know the age of the child, and I don't know if the officers had any evidence that led them to believe something was going wrong in the house that would warrant a welfare check like that. A welfare check, to my knowledge, you're supposed to just knock and then kind of go from there. But obviously no one probably answered, or maybe a child answered the door. We don't have the details of the story. But here it says that they responded to the house at 1 a.m. They were there for an hour. We don't have any evidence yet that I know of that's been put out. I'm sure I could go find the information if I wanted to, but I will leave the Troy Daily News to filing public records requests. However, it says 1 a.m. They were there, and she got back at 2 a.m. That sounds a little bit odd. I will say that's probably the part of the story that's a little bit odd. If she was genuinely gone for a couple minutes, but at what age are you allowed to keep your kids at the house? That's the question. Another story. Or leave while they're there. Another story that we will follow, I'm sure. Third and final of the crime segment. A Marion man has been charged with vehicular manslaughter. Not necessarily crime per se, but Marion man was arraigned on second-degree misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter on Tuesday in connection with a crash that caused the death of a Tip City woman. Now, this one is a little bit sad because John M. Oakey, 67 years old, of Marion, was charged with second-degree misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter in connection with the March 8th accident that caused the death of Karen L. Durf, 71 years old, of Tip City. Now, Oakey was arraigned in Miami County Municipal Court, but here's the thing. Around 11 to 11:30 a.m., he blew a red light. I believe it's, I think it's the light I'm talking. West Main Street and South Road 25A. That has so many accidents there, and I'll pass by when I'm golfing down at the Tip City Golf Course or whatever. There's always an accident at that intersection. It's not a great intersection. But it's kind of sad because I think what happened, and he seems to have admitted this at the scene, is that he woke up to airbags, which means he fell asleep at the wheel. And due to the age here, I mean, it is kind of just a sad story, but he has been charged with vehicular manslaughter in the case. He said he was going between 30 to 50 miles per hour. And I believe that's, at that point, that might be 35 both ways at that intersection, I believe, at the crosses. I think both of those roads are 35. Actually, the 25A row at that point is still 45. And it says here that he was westbound on Main Street. So he was coming from, he probably just passed over the interstate there and then went through the red light. Sad story coming out of Tip City for sure. We'll follow that one as well, see if there's any updates in the future on that one. Condolences to the family, and while it is probably a mistake or maybe the age or medical condition, I hope the best for him. It's got to be tough for him to live with that and everyone else to have to live with that. But coming out of our crime section, I wanted to get into this week. Something really cool that's kind of come from this whole COVID-19, a silver lining, is we finally have good audio for planning commission meetings, city council meetings here in Troy. I ragged on them a couple weeks ago. I forget which show it was, about the audio coming from our city council. And they're just doing what they can with the funds. Every city council across America, unless it's a major city, has this kind of audio in the city council. It's just something that they set up these little microphones ones that look like Bob Barker's Price is Right microphones, and that's what they use, but sometimes the levels aren't set correctly. I mean, just trying to maintain a couple microphones in this studio is enough of a challenge. I can only imagine setting it up for an entire city council on a limited government budget. But I think this is a good option. I'd rather watch them this way. I pour a cup of coffee or whatever, and I try to watch every single one that I can. I try to be as informed as I can in this city. And that's the point of this show, is to get people a little more engaged with maybe humor, with maybe seriousness, whatever the case is. Just putting together a fun show to do with some opinion in there. And I think it's a good thing to stay informed. So I was watching these meetings because a lot of it happens there. This was for the Planning Commission meeting. And they're doing these Zoom things, which is Zoom is where they have all the different boxes and cameras, and they're all in their homes, or some of them are at the city council buildings, but they are socially distanced, maybe sharing one camera. And it's rather comical. I think at one point they got visited by a nice, wholesome dog. One of the members, it was, his last name starts with a W. I can't recall it at the time, but his dog came into the background. That's probably not something you see at a meeting, a city meeting, very often. But the audio is nice and crisp now, or crisper. It's as good as you can get for a remote-in software like that, video conference software. Zoom's got to be making a killing off these local city councils, or in exposure at least. I don't know what they charge. I've not looked into it, or if it's a free platform, or what the case is, or if they're waiving a lot of things due to COVID. But coming out of this, Zoom will be well-known as an option. I mean, a very well-known option. It's going to be interesting to see how Skype fires back with all this, and Discord and all these other programs. But I was watching this unfold. I think the last meeting that I watched, one of the council members, we posted this on the Troy Show page. You find that image, Nathan, on the Troy Show page under photos of the city council meeting, the Zoom meeting we posted. Tell me that guy's name. From what I could tell, from my experience with video and audio and production, he green screened a older muscle car behind him. I thought that was funny. He's having fun with it. He's making the best of the situation. He's out there putting a green screen. When's the last time you watched a city council meeting where the city council had a green screen of a hot rod behind him? So they were having some fun with it. Bobby P. That was from a city council meeting, wasn't it? I think it was. Yeah. I think it was. But I thought that was funny. It's leading to some comical moments across the city here. Troy City Council, Planning Commission. But we've got the audio pulled. I listen to it, so you don't have to. But I do always encourage you go listen to it for yourself. But if you don't have the time, we try and condense it down best we can without misportraying it here, cover a couple of the key issues they covered, play the sound for you, and get it out to your ears in clips. If anything has been edited here, it's only maybe breaths or pauses just for the sake of format and time. Something doesn't sound right to you, that would be why. That's why I always encourage you to listen. I try to leave things as raw as possible, but if I did that, we'd just be here all day. So, and you might as well go listen to it at that point. So, I just wanted to mention how pretty cool it is that they're using this Zoom feature. I can actually sit down, do it on my own time, put it in on the car, listen as I go. They do post these. They live stream these videos to YouTube, Facebook, or something like that for all the city council meetings before this. They do that. It's something they've been doing. But this is nice. I mean, this is luxury compared to what we've had before, and it seems to be cheaper. Now, I know they've had to pass special, what do they call them? Resolutions? I knew that word was right there, and I wanted to say it, and I didn't want to say it, and then someone go, that's not the word for it. But they did pass a special resolution for it that way. And this shows it's just as much a learning experience for me locally. This is really allowing me to focus and put my efforts in on my local community and really see what's going on. It's been an eye-opener for me. Over 23 years of living here, and first time I've really gotten to get involved because I was homeschooled. So I just never really got to be involved with things. So now this is a chance to get to know names of people and who's running what and what's doing what. But anyway, they passed a resolution so they could go over to do these Zoom meetings. And for as long as they go on, it'll be interesting to watch when the normal city council I'm assuming when they resume, there's a reason they have to meet in person due to government, and it just has to be that way. But if there was a way, and I do offer the best, if they give me the budget, I'll go in there and look at their audio. Even though I have issues We're always going to disagree with your city council and politicians. I disagree with politicians at a core principle. But these people can be the nicest people outside of, but they've put themselves in the political limelight, and they're going to get treated to that exact treatment here. I'm sure on a personal level, it's a total different story. But on a political level, that's what they're going to get treated to. They're going to be in the limelight of that. And it's important that everyone knows what they're doing. It's important that we keep them accountable. So here we go. The big issue was the building at Canal and Walnut Street. Nathan, you were telling me a little bit about this building at Canal where they want to put a fire department in, I believe.
Yeah, I remember that from, a few months ago.
Yeah, I know you mentioned something, and then I heard them talking about this, and I
read an article at some point. I don't remember the details now, though.
Well, we'll grab them here for you, and we'll jog your memory on that. Send the old noggin for a joggin'. We'll go to Alan Kappers discussing whether it's a historic structure or not, and this is the building at Canal and Walnut Street, that old abandoned-looking warehouse. One of them mentioned, one of the planning commission people said they wanted to turn it into spaghetti warehouse. Well, he didn't say he wanted to turn it into, but he said, spaghetti warehouse, or is there anything else we could turn it into? I thought it was a cool idea. I'll take a spaghetti warehouse.
I feel like you could make a lot of it out of an old building like that. But
yeah.
It's kind of a waste to tear something like that down, in my opinion. Although, granted, it's probably cheaper to tear it down and build something else.
Well, we've got all of those concerns for you there packed into the sound bites here. So Alan Kappers discussing whether it's a historic structure or not.
In taking a look at the standard, though, it says in terms of historic character, I guess I'm having a problem with this. Is an old Troy Sunshade building in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And some people by themselves would say that itself indicates that it's a historic structure.
So his argument there is that it's historic just based on how long it's been around. So now the kind of theme that was strapped throughout this conversation that they were having that I was watching is that the slight debate was, is it historic just because of the age, or does it become historic because of what it once did? And they were trying to make the argument that perhaps it's not really that historic based on what was in it. It was just this sunset thing. It's been changed a couple times. It's not necessarily in its true historic form, so therefore it's not. But then we go to James McGarry discussing a better use for the corner and deterioration, which they had to clarify some deteriorating comments, as we'll get to in a minute.
My only comment would be that in the time that I've been in Troy, the building has not been utilized in any historical nature. It has, it continues to deteriorate, I guess. So I would welcome a new, better use for that corner.
Which a lot of people want to take. Now, if it were up to me, I would start seeing skyscraper expansion in the city. We'd keep the downtown, and then we'd just start leveling all the way down to West Main Street. We'd build skyscrapers. But obviously, you can't do that. It's a small town. People live here for a reason. They don't want the lifestyle of New York or whatever the case is. So there's always that little back and forth and debate whether or not, what is. Like, for instance, we've gotten 2 very nice apartments put in recently. We've got the ones over by the post office, which I believe MB Construction had some hand in that. I toured those at one point. They're very nice inside. A little too pricey, I believe, for the Troy area. That's just me. I think they were banking on the Kettering Hospital being put in, them needing a place to stay. Sometimes doctors make a little bit more, and they travel more often. They need a place to stay for a year or whatever, and it just has the convenience for them. They're usually at the hospital most of the time. And then we got the riverfront apartments. They've got a nice little patio out back. It's not my particular design. I don't know. I enjoy my view of the safety building mafia and the Masonic Temple. They are everywhere, which was also just recently bought. So that was their argument of, well, he would like to see something maybe better use. It's not really historic. It could just be torn down. That's a nice space that we need. It's unfortunately not really a space that would do much favor with parking, but we'll see what they come up with. They're fighting for, I believe, a fire station there right now, even though there's the old one right there. It's got that kind of vintage 70s look to that fire station. I'm not sure which year it was built, but it was somewhere in there. And that's their plans right now. So we go on. Alan Kappers discussing if people should just let buildings deteriorate so that they can be demolished. That was the other kind of debate going on with the Planning Commission meeting, is should we allow these buildings to deteriorate? Or if I'm someone who wants to demolish a building, just let it deteriorate and then they vote on it. And they were talking about that concern. So he was returning to James McGarry's comments on it.
Would a person who has a piece of property they want to demolish, would they be better off just letting it be start deteriorating so that becomes a qualification for us permitting the demolition?
So then Titterington chimes in with codes about it.
There's a specific provision in the code that says you cannot allow it to deteriorate and then use that as an excuse to demolish.
So it's protected.
In our case, we bought the building in that condition. We've had it a very relatively short time, so there hasn't been any deterioration since we've owned it.
Now, he puts in there that, yes, they've already thought of that, which it does make sense to me. I mean, that's kind of a loophole that they closed there. Obviously, you can't just let it deteriorate and then get the permits for it to build. I'm not a real estate person, so can't speak too heavily on that. But now James McGarry, realizing now that his comments have been either taken out of context or maybe he shouldn't have said that, whatever was going through his mind, comes back to clarify those comments about deterioration.
I should probably qualify my comment about deterioration. Meaning the historical nature has been deteriorated, not necessarily the structural. It probably, if you leave it alone, it'd probably stand for another 100 years.
So he comes around back saying that the historical value of it's just deteriorated at this point. The changes and everything like that. He didn't mean that the actual building is deteriorating. A lot of these will last. These buildings will last. But the reality is so many of the historic downtown that we know, which is why we work to preserve it so much, will one day have to be leveled in some form. It won't resemble what it is today, no matter whether that's natural cause or whatever the case is. It's an unfortunate reality. But for now, we tried to preserve it. Now, Mayor Oda chimed in to talk about previous plans for the apartment remodel of the last owners, because I think the city just swooped in and bought it up, or one of the commissions or departments or whatever swooped in and bought up the land to move the fire department somewhere else. She was talking about kind of the past history of it and an apartment remodel.
I would add that the group that the city bought it from had it for a couple of years with the intent of remodeling it into apartments and that sort of thing. And that just became an overwhelmingly expensive venture, and they decided they could not do that.
Sounds to me like there were some inner things that weren't really thought of too well there. I don't know if it was on the city's end or if it was on the people who were planning to renovate it into apartments, because I look out this window right now in the Cass building, which was hit by the infamous straight line EF0, which has now been 107 days, by the way, since we've fixed the sidewalk out front of the tavern building. Was that at one point Ledoux's or whatever? It's been a rough location to get a good solid business in there. It's a nice building, but they just need some renovation. The Cass building over there that they're remodeling is supposed to be remodeled to apartments. So apparently that can be done with old historic buildings. I'm not sure the age between the two. Maybe the Cass building, I'm not sure. But the remodel of historic buildings for apartments can happen. Can be costly, I'd assume. But that was her point on that matter. And finally, they move for the approval vote.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
There's a motion and approval to permit the demolition of the vacant structure. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Ehrlich.
Yes.
Mr. Titterington.
Same.
Mr. Westmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Cappers.
Yes.
Mr. McGarry.
Yes.
Mr. Wolke.
Yes.
Mayor.
Oh, I abstain.
Motion passed.
And you heard the mayor at the end there abstain from the vote because they had a vested interest in this particular. I believe also Titterington abstained as well, based on the fact that he was the one who I think signed the approval for it. So they rightfully so. If you listen to the full meeting in context there, I forgot to grab a clip just kind of clarifying what that abstain vote meant. Go take a look at it over there at, I believe, Troy, Ohio City Government's Facebook page. That's the one where they've got all the Zoom meetings that they've been doing. You can go take a look over there for that. But there, we just walked you through all of that and recapped it here for you. Got one more issue that they covered in this meeting that I thought was worth bringing into the show. This is the issue of outdoor seating at Herons Market. Now, Alan Cappers brings up the issue in this clip.
Okay, the next matter to come before the commission is the historic district application for 2 East Main Street for the installation of outdoor seating.
Now, they want to install, Connor over at Herons Market wants to install outdoor seating at Heron's Market, which I don't know if you've seen the upstairs seating at Heron's Market. Very nice. Very nice view. Probably one of my favorite views. Not my favorite. None of them are my favorite. I don't try to pick favorites, but it's one of my favorite views. And he is expanding rapidly over there. There is talk in this meeting of even possibility of liquor license at Heron's Market or serving alcoholic beverages, which is why we'll get into some of the details of the fencing outside. But right now, the walls are kind of recessed at the windows, and their plans in one of the original drawings they sent to the Planning Commission, I believe, or someone involved with the takeover of the old Art Vault Gallery building, is that they had these little seats pressed, like kind of cramped up. But this is kind of debating that they want to do an old 50s kind of style metal awning out front to cover the seating area. So the initial request is install black metal awning, black tables, and black chairs, along with the flowers and pots out there. And they talk about it a little bit here.
The proposal is the applicant is requesting to install a black metal awning that covers the building out to the extent of the seating area, installing a black fence to create an outdoor seating area for the patrons of Heron's Market, and installing matching black tables, chairs, and planter boxes.
Now, they were discussing the time period of the metal awnings on other downtown businesses and buildings, including the Cass building. They're remodeling that awning out there got hit pretty hard, but that's the flat 50 style, and their argument here was the time period is why they're kind of against it, because it's not historical to Troy's.
The material in the flat awning is a period type piece. Those were brought out in the 1950s and used through the 80s. They're not exactly historically relevant to the area. Others have been requested to be removed. One of those is across the street at the Cass building.
And then the kind of gathered consensus here is they're going to have to go with fabric at this point in the meeting, and that it's only going to be able to extend halfway out of the seating area, which then Alan Kappers discusses La Piazza because they're wondering about the public right-of-way.
As in La Piazza, we had to have La Piazza enter into an agreement with the city of Troy on the use of the public right-of-way, and they entered into a lease agreement, if I recall correctly.
And that was for their outdoor seating. Now, La Piazza has a different situation, which you'll hear in this clip, where they're discussing option B of the fabric awning that would only come out halfway of the proposed fence seating at Heron's Market.
Correct. The fabric, the option B, the fabric awning will only come out to about halfway of the proposed fenced seating area.
And the reason that is because the windows are recessed between pillars at Heron's Market, and they'd have to make the slope larger and the angle larger and steeper to get it to cover it all the way out. So only half of it would be able to be covered because of that. Whereas La Piazza, the building's flat on the sides and they could raise it up and not have to worry too much about the windows. They had a different option for extending it out farther. Same with the Caroline. Two great little seating areas out there. I look forward to seeing what happens with La Piazza or La Pizza very soon. Now, Mayor Oda did bring up the next question. Why the awning can't extend over the entire seating area? And it makes sense to me. This was a valid question that was asked by Mayor Oda.
Well, if I'm sitting there, I'm going to want to be under the awning, especially if it starts raining. Why would it not come out over the seating?
And that was her question, was why wouldn't it come over the seating area? What's the point? And that is because of the recessed building. Now, I think there's something you could do, but then that might go into zoning. At this point in the meeting, they're all leaning towards the fabric. The metal was dismissed very early on because of the time period. They didn't want it to be flat and have that old 50s style look to it, which doesn't make sense to me because there's so many buildings that kind of represent the 50s style down here. It's very much more so far dating back farther in the historical look of the downtown. But, you know, Kay's Hamburger Shop, that's kind of a little bit of a 50s vibe to it. So we'll see. I didn't necessarily agree or disagree with him on that one. I just kind of felt like if the guy wants a black metal awning out there, put a black metal awning out there. But there's some other safety concerns and looks. Fabric's not bad either, just cover the whole thing, but he is in a different position than the other two buildings here. So he's going to have to make the call on that and see. But they move forward with an option B, explaining why those buildings and not Heron's building could be accommodated by a large sloped fabric awning here in this clip.
Correct. With the pylons on this building and the inset windows, where La Piazza and the Caroline have flat sides.
Do we have comment from the Peanut Gallery or okay? Oh, we do have some breaking news if you're listening live right now. There is apparently a confirmed search and rescue in Sydney. What are they searching and rescuing? On the river. Okay, well, we will update you with details on that after our final clip here where they move for approval of option B. Zach, research that during this clip here, and then we'll come back to you on that breaking news.
I'd recommend approval of the fabric awning, option 2.
I'll second.
Mr. Westendorf seconded. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Titterington,
Yes.
Mr. Westmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Cappers,
Yes.
Mr. McGarry,
Yes.
Mr. Wolke,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mrs. Early.
Yes.
Motion is approved based on option 2.
All right, so there you have it, the approval of option B, fabric awnings at Heron's Meat Market. So if you're a fan there of Heron's Meat Market, big things coming to the outdoor scene in downtown Troy, something that's much needed. We got just a few articles to glance over. We'll wrap up the show, but we do have a little bit of breaking news. Zach, you're telling me up in Sydney right now that there is a search and rescue current?
Yes, as of right now, this is what I'm getting or gathering. Search and rescue on the river. Looks like some people went out canoeing. I have heard at least 4. There's not a whole lot of news, but from what I'm reading, there's a potential of 1 that it has turned from a search and rescue to recovery, which is never good. So prayers and thoughts to the families there.
It's happening in Sydney right now. Search and rescue, thoughts and prayers again to those family members up there affected by it. Now, what's that? Oh, yeah, you. Good thing you reminded me there. Now, the last thing we got to wrap up here, just some stuff we're going to glance at here in the city. No injuries have been reported in a Troy car fire that happened over at La Fiesta Express. Can only imagine after eating tacos why that fire started. But according to dailycall.com, Michael Ulrey, Troy firefighters battle a car fire in the parking lot of La Fiesta Express on West Main Street on Saturday around 5:30 p.m. So it wasn't the Taco Tuesday special, so it wasn't started by the tacos. A woman was in the drive-through line when her vehicle began to smoke. As she moved forward, she began to see flames, so she moved to the parking lot and got out of the car. Troy Fire Department and police responded. The fire was extinguished. There were no injuries. Hopefully all is well with her. Troy resident, of course, was given that trial for drug for coronavirus. Speedy recovery there. Hopefully everything's back to normal for them. Now, this was the final issue, and I got to bring this up. Okay, so there's just 2 things here I got to bring up. All right, before we close the show out, I meant to bring it up a little bit earlier, got sidetracked, but they did the salute to the healthcare professionals at the Kettering Hospital, which we talked about last week. We went over the fact that the mayor then took some heat for it due to the fact that they didn't do one at UVMC. So the Premier versus the Kettering crowd was getting upset about that. The Premier crowd, of course, was upset at the mayor for not going over there. The mayor later came out and clarified after it that they had talked to UVMC, but it was just not feasible at this time. It just couldn't be done, and they would let them know when they could get it and go. If you missed what this is about, it's where they all get in their cars, the citizens, the officials, the fire departments, police departments, they all get in their cars. The EMS, of course, turn their lights on. The regular cars just turn their 4-ways on. They honk for a little bit. I don't know if it's like 30 seconds or a minute. They stay there for about 10 minutes with their lights on like that, and then they all disperse. That was the plan. That's how it went down. They got some great footage over at Kettering Hospital. I think the thing's a little wishy-washy myself, but it did go over the way they thought it would. And the mayor's telling us, she hasn't offered up proof to my knowledge that she's contacted UVMC about it, but apparently it could not be done. Well, then a few days later, after she takes some heat, we talk about it on the show, an image comes out, of course, from the Troy Daily News. A bunch of pictures they took, aerial photos. I wonder, I can't tell. I want to say, it's a drone, so I'm wondering if it is Devin that took these or not. I don't know how they got these drone photos. But they all line up. Now, you'll notice with this one, there's no citizens. It's all EMS. It's like a bunch of these EMS departments came to show their own support to UVMC. So I go over then and I check the mayor's page. Now, I saw it from someone in one of the citizens groups, Casstown. I think he was with the Casstown Volunteer Fire Department or something like that. also posted a picture. That's where I first caught interest of the story. And then I see that Troy Daily News posts the story. And everyone's aware of this. Now, the mayor, who had just said it was not feasible to organize one of these events at the UVMC hospital, and I believe there's images. Yes, the staff came outside. So the staff is outside. Most of the staff, some of the staff that could make it outside, which the hospitals are just bogged down right now, made it outside of the hospital. And the mayor had just came out and said it was just not feasible. It couldn't be done. The UVMC they just couldn't do it. It was no hard feelings. Just couldn't do it. I go over to her page and she posts like no other when it comes to stuff about Troy. Rightfully so. She's the mayor. This is the most socially active mayor we've had in the last 16 years. Not saying that's a bad thing. That's a great source to know what's going on. So I found it odd, and I went back to April 23rd. From what I could find scrolling, I saw no mention of this story on her page, even though Troy Daily News posted it, and it was reported by some other citizens in the area. Kind of odd, considering. Now, I think if you couldn't organize it with UVMC, you should have just canceled the whole thing and moved on. But maybe she learned from it, who knows. But I see this photo go up, and she has been now on a tear, per se, of the local economy being shut down. In a post made on her Facebook page, it says, no. I will vote in person every time given the opportunity. Pros and cons, but in my opinion, the cons outweigh the pros. She's referring to a Dayton Daily News article, 5 states vote only by mail, should Ohio? And her response was, no. I will vote in person every time given the opportunity. Pros and cons, but in my opinion, the cons outweigh the pros. Then she lists a pro and a con of it. And she says, you don't know who has actually filled any of those ballots is one of the cons. I agree with her on this. 100% agree with her. Mail-in ballot, this has been a completely ridiculous last-minute decision meddling with our election. That's worse than anything that's happened, or worse than any fears of electronic meddling. This has been worse than that. And the Miami County Board of Elections are trying to come out of this thing, and they're trying to regain trust, and then this happens to them. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it was Jonathan Ferguson that posted that picture coming out of Upper Valley Medical Center at the Casstown Community Volunteer Fire Department. Did not see any citizens, did not mention of the mayor. But she has been now voicing opinion. She puts out a piece saying, flatten this curve. April report to be historically bad, economic predicts. And then she puts out one that says, unacceptable, period. I don't know what that one's referring to, so I won't speak on it too. But now she's starting to show a little. The kid's starting to get on her nerves too. But that's, again, like a mayor. Her first response is just stay in good graces with the state, get the funding from them, keep the people happy, post encouraging stuff. And then now she's kind of feed some of her little opinions in there about maybe she's not fully on board. That's all I wanted from her in the first place. Like, this is terrible. This is terrible for local business. We have to go along with this, though, because of our funding and the state, and it's a political game. We all get that. But I did find that interesting. And another photo, I found this one here. We'll cut to it here on the live feed. Set the stage here. We've gotten 2 new officers. Officer Jason Lay is one of them. Started today with the Troy Police Department as of recording this, and was sworn in at 2:30 this afternoon. I could not confirm when this picture was taken, but assuming it was taken today, we'll cut to that. Assuming this picture here was taken today, why have we been berated about visiting the public parks, social distancing, etc., and you are literally within inches and a child in the photo? Now, this is everyone's right, okay? I've said this a lot. Social distancing, this is everyone's right to either mutually engage or not in social distancing. I don't practice it personally myself to the I'm always respectful of people's personal space, etc., but I don't practice it to this carrying a tape measure around nonsense. But we're told by these people that we have to go along with this for greater good. And then we get a photo like this that comes out with a child present. Now, this one would be more susceptible to the corona. Now, I don't know this circumstance here. I don't know anything that they did. I would like clarification on this photo, because right now I can't go play basketball. I can't go do anything normal. I have to be very cautious and weird in public. And we're told it's for the greater good. I would like to accept that. I would like to think that our best interest is at mind here, and we'll come out of this thing okay. But this photo, very interesting photo right here. Why? Why are we like, the city council spread apart? They were 6 feet apart. Maybe, and maybe they all consented here, and that's fine. I would like information as to when this photo was taken. I would like to know if everyone here consented to the social distancing, make sure everything is okay. We'll go back to the camera here, but that's just something I noticed today. Very interesting, but we'll follow it. I would like comment from them. Someone call in. Someone send us an email, beautifultroyshow@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/Beautiful Troy Show. Take the discussion a little bit further, facebook.com/groups/Troy, Ohio citizens. Just practice what you preach. It's not that they were close in the photo. Doesn't bother me. What I'm saying is it's the hypocrisy of it. We need to look into that, and I need information on when that photo was taken. Was it taken before the whole thing? I don't know. Just thought I'd throw it out there, something to look at. Make sure the people are practicing what they're preaching. Always do that. That's what we try and do here. Guaranteed minute of airtime. We're not going to disturb you, cut in, kill switch you, unless, of course, obviously you are one of those. They've been around forever, as long as Colin has existed. Obvious trolls. And I use that word so cautiously there, because I do not like the word troll. I think that's just a way to brush off people's valid opinions or points or whatever the case is, and try to make them out to be the worst person possible when they just have a different view than you do. Always remember there's two sides to the story. We'll catch you back here next Monday at 7 p.m. I think we pretty much covered everything that needs covering this week. We'll edit down the show notes. We'll make them available to you so you can follow along with the show if you're listening pre-recorded, or if you want to look further into anything. We have all the links, most of which that we've mentioned tonight. If there's anything we can help you with, again, beautifultroyshow@gmail.com. Send us an email there if you've got any extra questions. But we will edit the notes down tonight, make sure that all the links are available. Screenshots, pictures, things like that are in there, and you can take a look. We post that in the description of the Facebook page. Also, our YouTube channel. If you have YouTube Red, we don't have an audio-only version of the show yet. There are ways to get it for more technical people, but if you just have YouTube Red or something like that, you can easily go to our YouTube channels. Just search The Troy Show. You'll find it. Play that on your phone. If you don't know YouTube Red, it's $10 a month, something like that, 15. And it just allows you to listen to YouTube videos while your phone is shut off. So the screen's off, but the audio is still playing, and it gets rid of ads. I'm not paid to say that. I'm just telling you that's how I listen to stuff. So if you need an audio version, a lot of people maybe listen in their cars, get caught up on the news of Troy. You can go check it out over there, youtube.com. Search for The Troy Show. We'll catch you back Monday at 7 p.m. A lot of big things in the work. Always changing studio here, making sure that we are providing the best possible quality show that we can to you, the citizen, and the surrounding area. Remember, this is Troy. And it got a hold for dramatic effect on air.